Voting in progress.
I am calling Village of Cross Plains Board of Trustees meeting of March 27th to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hartman.
Present.
Trustee Brad.
Here.
Trustee Brunner.
Here.
Trustee Brooklyn.
Here.
Trustee Palmakowski.
Here.
Trustee Calvater.
Here.
President Lang.
Here. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board at any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. The village board encourages input from residents. It may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. We're going to start with anybody from the public that's not listed on here want to speak. Anybody on internet? Nope. All right. We'll move to Dana. If you could, yeah, turn on that mic right there. We'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me stop by your meeting tonight. I was here about 6 months ago and I was asking you to support our operational referendum in November. And so I'm back with a two-part message, very brief, just to say thank you first and foremost, and to let you know sort of where these funds are going to help support our district. Are you going to be driving there, Brad?
I got it.
Thank you so much. So we were, hopeful for 51% of a yes vote, and we were fortunate to see 63%. We know that strong schools mean strong communities, so we're just incredibly appreciative of your support and of that we see from the community. We were successful in our $24.9 million referendum that's going to occur over the next 4 years, and that is really going to support 3 main priorities. The first one is to maintain our instructional and co-curricular programs. This includes our staffing levels. So here in Cross Plains, at Park, and at Glacier Creek, as we look ahead to next school year, our class sizes are going to remain very low compared to other Dane County systems, and all of the current program that we have in place will stay, and we're thrilled about that. The second priority is to retain and attract staff. I mentioned when I was here 6 months ago, we're in a really competitive labor market. We're pleased to be able next month to bring to our school board, and I should introduce one of our school board members is with us tonight, and that's Bob Green. A 6% raise for all of our employee groups. That was part of our referendum ask. We know how important it is in all employee groups to have wonderful people working in our district, and because of the successful referendum, we're going to be able to do that. And the third priority is just maintaining all of our facilities. Some of our facilities are new, some are older. Park is a great example. We want to make sure that we maintain those facilities so that services to our students and staff remain uninterrupted. So what happens in 4 years when our referendum sunsets? We are looking at a couple of things and monitoring a couple of things really, really closely. First is state aid. Governor Evers has put forward a very pro-public education agenda. Of course, we are very supportive of that, but we're also really optimistic. We don't think we're going to get everything that he has proposed, but we think we're going to get something, and something is better than nothing, which is what we've received recently. So we're cautiously optimistic about that. We're also monitoring the rate of inflation. Last year it was 4.7% for school districts. This year it is 8.01%. That has a negative impact on all aspects of our district operation. We're hoping to see that go down, and that'll just be better for everything. And the third thing we're really monitoring is enrollment growth. We are not anticipating enrollment growth heading into next school year. That's pretty flat, a little bit of a dip at our high school level. The school's largest graduating class is currently our 12th grade class. We'll graduate more than 600 students here. In June, our 9th grade class coming in is a little bit smaller. But we are really looking at our middle schools in particular. Glacier and Crown Ray are both almost near capacity. So in 4 years' time, we might have to come back to our community with a conversation about a potential 3rd middle school. So we'll see as we monitor different factors. Want to let everyone know that annually, we take our role as a fiscal steward of taxpayer monies really seriously. We looked at all aspects of this district operation, and we benchmark across Dane County to make sure that we're remaining competitive, but also fiscally responsible. A couple of additional updates that might be of interest to you. Our stadium project continues. Phases 1 and 2 of that stadium will be done by June 1st. So really all that will be left will be the finishing off of the second floor. Our Ed Foundation continues to be our fundraising partner, and all fundraising efforts are going through there, and their website is there for your reference. I mentioned when I was here in the fall that the district was contributing $2 million towards that stadium, and we were getting that money from the sale of lots that we owned across the street from Hope Farm Elementary. We have sold 11 of those lots. And so our $2 million contribution and promise has been fulfilled. I'm gonna keep going. One thing we did not predict, last football season, our scoreboard at the stadium literally exploded. It blew up. Smoke was coming out the top of the scoreboard. And so we have to replace that. The new scoreboard costs $600,000. And so the five remaining lots that we're selling, the proceeds from that will fund a new scoreboard at the high school stadium. We continue to struggle with some staffing shortages, bus drivers, food service professionals, paraprofessionals. We're trying a variety of different creative ways to attract those folks to our district. We can probably predict heading into next year, we're going to have to change some walk zones. So we reduce the overall number of bus routes that we're running every day. And so we have some drivers who can serve in different capacities. So that work continues. Our students continue to thrive in a variety of ways. Recently in our boardroom, we honored the boys swim and dive state championship teams. Our debate team also took the state championship. So our staff continue to do wonderful work with our kids, and they continue to just excel in a variety of different ways. Spring break is this week, and then typically when we get back from spring break, we turn to sort of celebration season in the spring. We wonder every year how many staff are going to retire. We have about 150 eligible certified staff who could retire any year, and we kind of brace every year wondering if this is going to be the year where we see a lot of turnover. Happy to report only 15 certified teachers are retiring this year, and I think we're up to 9 non-certified staff. So we have a recognition dinner for them later in April. So with that, again, I just wanted to come and personally say thank you. Our district is very grateful for your support and for your belief in our district and the collaboration that we've received from the village of Cross Plains. So I'd welcome any questions if you have any. Otherwise, I will let you move on to your agenda.
Anybody have any questions for us? Well, thank you for taking the time to come and keep us informed.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, consent agenda. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Anybody have anything they'd like to have removed, put under general business?
Number 11.
11, okay.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented minus item number 11.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. Oh, we're gonna take, no, we did. Something ahead here. All right, report of village officers. I just wanna thank Andy for his 2 years of service on the board. This is his last meeting. We appreciate the time you put into serving the village, so thank you. That is all I have. Village president.
I'm gonna miss Andy. I want to thank you also for everything you've done and added to us. Also on April 13th is the chamber banquet at St. Francis, and everybody's welcome to come to it. There's an invite going on if you need it. I think it's $35 for the meal, and you're going to do a Citizen of the Year award and a Business of the Year award. so they could present those, so. But everyone can make it.
Cody?
Again, want to remind everyone that Mr. Peanuts is up for custodian of the year. The school district website, if you just Google MCPASD, it's up there right away. Please vote. You can vote more than once, vote often for Mr. Peanuts. It's pretty awesome. 58 years in the school district as a custodian, so you can all take a minute to do that. I'm sure appreciate it.
And you can vote many times in one day.
Yes.
I've done it.
All right, you do.
Doug?
At Tuesday's PSC meeting, Chief Tony added the new permanent member of the Crossland Police Department. 11-year-old Michael Frederick South was honored. Chief Tony and the PSC gave him both Michael's family and mom a plaque to signify the honor. He's grandson of Joe Firstborn, Village Public Works, volunteer firefighter, who was interested in law enforcement and passed away.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Jay and Brian and Bobby and Mike and Gary and Tony and all the staff and trustees for very fun 2 years and good learning experience. And I appreciate you guys put on with me. Thank you.
The pleasure was ours.
All right, anything else? All right. Ryan?
Okay, I just wanted to give a moment's recognition to Chris Lohman, who just recently retired from the library. Pam assisted in putting together a resolution, which I'd like to read tonight, honoring her service to the village and the community of Cross Plains. So a resolution of appreciation and recognition of service upon retirement for Chris Lohman. Whereas Chris Lohman began her career at the Rosemary Garfoot Public Library at the village of Cross Plains in January 2007 and served the citizens of Cross Plains, Wisconsin and patrons of the South Central Library System for 16 years. And whereas Chris demonstrated dedication and support of the Rosemary Garfoot Public Library's mission to serve the community through provision of materials and services designed to create a community of lifelong learners. Chris further upheld the pursuit of open access to information and the universe of ideas to a diverse and inclusive community. This was accomplished by connecting people to the transformative power of knowledge, literacy, and lifelong learning. And whereas first as the circulation supervisor and later as assistant director, Chris demonstrated passion and commitment to providing the best possible library service to the community and beyond. And whereas Chris fostered relationships with patrons, community organizations, and the friends of the library, and whereas as assistant library director, she ensured that patrons, visitors, and organizations received the best possible library experience. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Cross Plains Village Board expresses its deep gratitude to Chris Lohman for her dedication, enthusiasm, hard work, and commitment to Cross Plains and its residents, and wishes Chris all the best in her well-deserved retirement and future endeavors. The other quick items that I just wanted to summarize here after that is that the library has recently hired Kelly McEwen, who started on the 14th of March as the new assistant library director. And the last bit of information, I recently had an opportunity to submit somewhat of a proposal on behalf of the village with Jay's oversight and blessing to be considered for potential consideration for congressional funding towards projects in the village. So I submitted 2 proposals, one for our Village Hall Police Station project and the second for Park Street. And I have already heard back from the senator's office about my request. So I'll keep you all posted about those, but I thought it was encouraging that we already received a response. That's all.
All right, thank you. All right, we have other reports, Jerry.
Before you go, Jerry, Brian, was everyone muted on the call?
You were here though too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me a second here. I think we got everything.
That's what it is.
That's it.
As promised, bringing you another update on, how the staff is doing on their, village-wide wage compensation project. If you look on pages 92 and 93 of your packet, we've generated, a mission statement, short footnotes version of a background as to why this project is taking place, and some goals. So, hopefully, if you haven't had a chance yet to look at those, appreciate it if you would. Feedback at this time would be nice, so that, you know, for sure if we're headed on the right track or not. We also do later in your agenda have eventually the mission statement in a resolution form. Hoping for your blessing on that, and that would give us some confidence that we're headed in the right direction. We'll just keep updating you. Next month, I doubt there will be much to talk about, because we're gonna start diving into putting together updated job descriptions, developing the pay scale, and I don't think we'll get that done within 1 month's time. Any questions? Comments?
Well, I think they'll be probably when it comes to item 13,
Yeah.
because then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry. All right, Bobby.
Quarter review is scheduled for our next board meeting. So the quarter review will be from 5 to 7, and our regular meeting will be at 7. We do have to have one person sign up for the training. So if there's no volunteers, I do have an opportunity where I can attend an in-person training through the Municipal Clerks Association. Nobody wants to volunteer to watch the video.
I'm not going to watch. I'm gone that day. So I'm gonna say, so make sure we have enough people here that day. I am gone. Lord, I'm sorry.
All right. Anybody else not able to make it?
I will not.
Well, thank you. It's not that you can't make it. All right, does anybody want to do the video, or
How long is the video?
Michael, you did the last video. I did in person.
The video,
Right, 2 hours.
2 hours, maybe 3. I mean, it's not like a half hour. Like,
Then you put it on one of that speed.
Well, some of them don't allow you to do that, like my football certification, you can't skip. You gotta. How long is your in-person one?
I think it's the same thing. I think they just play the video up on the screen and you can sit through it and get lunch.
I think I'm gonna be here. I'll watch the video.
Okay, I know I can't order it until next week, so I'll let you know if it's like flash drive it.
Yeah, I think last time.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. All right, go to general business. Oh,
Give a quick update.
oh, go ahead, yep.
Good evening. Hey, I just want to let everyone know our spring summer activity guide is out and online. Jam-packed, once again, summer full of programs. Like I said, Catherine Elevator, she took the initiative and really rocked out the new guide for this year. So did a wonderful job. We're now trying to secure staff for the entire summer. Number of applicants for rec, but we're still trying to get a number of kids and kind of getting some word of mouth out there that's saying we're hiring at the pool. As we do still need a number of applicants for that. I don't know if Kevin's giving an update, but I just thought I'd quick let you know the well project, the bathroom project up at Bear Park is going at a good pace. Their goal is to get it kind of wrapped up and allow us to be able to use that area come end of ground installed over at Glacier Ridge Playground or over in Bear Park, kind of east there. The tree that is located near the current well or current restrooms at Bear Park, we're actually gonna have spaded at the end, middle to end of this week. And we're actually gonna move it over into that playground so it has some shade.
That's cool.
And the current placement isn't the greatest for the bathroom set. So that's all. Any questions? Thank you.
Alrighty, go to general business. Number one, discussion and possible action. Resolution thanking the United Arab Emirates for professional development and educational outreach opportunities for area teachers. I'll let Andy lead on this one.
Sure. Brian, have you seen Dina in there yet?
I did not.
She did mention. She sent me a warning that she's flying from Georgia to DC, so there might be some.
Do not.
If that's not, that's fine. So the background of this is that there are fellowships that are available to teachers across the country to apply for. All these fellowships enrollments with the same goal in mind of creating a global community, engaging and enhancing the relationship between the United States and various countries. So over the years, I've done some fellowships in Japan, South Korea, and India, and Qatar, and Oman, and now in the UAE. And at the end of the study tour, essentially what these states and embassies are trying to do is just basically bring their country to the classroom, so the students from the United States have an understanding of the culture, the history, and the background of the states, so we have more of a peaceful engagement with them in the future instead of more of a hostile one. And so the UAE embassy, in conjunction with the Dallas-Fort Worth Foreign Affairs Council, put this out 2 years ago. This got delayed due to the Omicron variant. Because it's based out of Dallas-Fort Worth, 6 of the teachers were from Texas, 6 were from the rest of the United States. So we had Georgia, California, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and New York who were on our tour together. And these always have been fantastic opportunities that are sought out by individual teachers, ultimately benefiting the students of cross-funds and benefits with the implementation of the lessons that we end up doing at the end of this project. I got the idea to do this resolution. This came up during the trip. I received a resolution from Diane Hasselbein through Wisconsin Assembly, thanking the cross-country team for just being successful in one state in 2019. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to thank the UAE Embassy in Dallas-Fort Worth for supplying a similar opportunity for me to provide to my students some great professional development and to my colleagues as well. So that's kind of where this came from. And so on the tour, what we do is we essentially land and then we are set up through the embassy to the United States with top tier ministries to visit and ask questions to. So we'll visit with the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance and Tourism, the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence. We visited a few schools, which were some of the highlights we had in Abu Dhabi, to see how education is done in the UAE comparatively to the United States. And of course, then we were provided with just a really great experience culturally of being able to engage with people from around the UAE in various positions. So we went from Abu Dhabi for 3 days to Dubai for 3 days. And one of the common misconceptions I think about the UAE that most people have is that they're just wealthy because of oil and natural gas, which is not true actually. Only 30% of their GDP comes from oil and natural gas. So the other 2/3 comes from technology, investment comes from international investment, and just generally consumerism, just as it is in the United States, services, people paying for stuff. And so the common phrase that I heard while I was there that I just wanted to share with you, and I heard this throughout Abu Dhabi, Dubai, from ministers in various different places. We celebrate the last barrel of oil that we will sell because they're trying to figure out what the future is. And we know that this is a finite resource. And so throughout the whole entire experience, I was just kind of humbled by their very thoughtful, empathetic, global perspective on the way that they do things and make decisions, which I haven't seen necessarily everywhere. And Qatar, who's also on this map, I traveled to in 2018 on a similar fellowship. and they hold 15% of the world's natural gas. And they're just a skin tab off of the coast of Saudi Arabia, which has a very different perspective. So I'm just greatly appreciative of what they've provided, and I'd like to share it with other teachers in our district and just kind of basically use the platform that we have here at the Village Cross Plains to say thanks and just pass a resolution to do just that.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Andy? Scott?
What stuck out as similarities and what stuck out as like noticeable differences in schools?
Well, so key points is they're all trying to get into American University. So preparing their students for ACTs, SATs, definitely top of the game. They still teach AP curriculum, which is college board based. So AP Human Geography, AP Gov, because they know that these kids are going to want to go to universities here in the United States. Most of the students in the private schools are from their expats, so their parents work for a financial company or some other business that has relocated to Abu Dhabi or Dubai. And then for the public schools, the charter schools there, you must be from a member of the Gulf state to attend it. But the same thing is they're trying to get to the United States or Europe for school, because the secondary education here is pretty much the best in the world. And so a lot of the administrative and staff there are American or European. So I visited a school that had a Scottish principal and an American assistant principal, and most of the teachers were from either the States or places like England. But when you walk in, you're like, okay, so now this is just like school in the US. You got kids misbehaving, you got kids behaving. I mean, like, when I went to the public school, it seems very much like it was in my school. When I was at the private school, that was a little different. It was very much reserved on the Hades. It was a different vibe.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion to approve this presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any discussion?
I talked to Andy about this before, and maybe I'm just reading it goofy, but there's like the third one down. Village Crossland recognizes UAE are current global leaders in future technology solutions and local thinking, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, all of this is like, I'm all good with a thank you, like a thank you makes a lot of sense here. It just, I don't know, it feels weird to, I don't know, just for France, right? To thank France for the opportunity, but we also have to make sure we recognize France as global leaders in arts and whatever, history or something. So that was the only paragraph in here that stuck out as like, not like the others, because it wasn't, the rest of it is like a, you know, a good thank you. And then that one was the one that was weird. At least how I read it.
Yeah, so I mean, just to respond to that, I think that one of the big takeaways I got from this was when I came into this experience, I assumed a lot of things about the UAE. You know, the fact that they have an indoor snow hill in the middle of the desert, really like ring true as like being sustainable. But having gone through it and then, you know, gone to the Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Science and gone to these places and seen what they're actually doing on the ground, it is super innovative. And it's not necessarily implying that they are the global leader, but they are a global leader. And so I think the United States should learn something from the way they're approaching the future and the fact that we're going to run out of petroleum and other non-renewable energy resources. And I'm just trying to basically get that essence into the resolution as we apply them. And I think the ambassador would also appreciate, you know, just putting that into a official resolution, as this is a takeaway from some of the teachers that we just took to Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
Sure. You just said, you talked about green technology, but it's not listed there. I mean, that was, I don't know.
Yeah, future technologies kind of is all encompassing of.
Okay.
Especially this addressing global and local challenges.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right. Village Community Development Authority Resolution. We need a public hearing. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
May I say just one thing for moving on?
Oh, sure.
So one of the interesting conversations we had when we were there was at the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence. And I actually had ChatGPT draft this resolution for the village across Plains before I edited it. As a way to demonstrate the future of AI and how it's going to change the way in which we live and operate. So the vast majority of this was actually drafted by a computer. And then, yeah, sure, I'll send it to you.
I'm just curious.
I think that's scary. We're just gonna end up being dummies, that computers are gonna do everything for us. We're gonna lose our thinking.
That was one of the phrases they used, that was, a profession that never existed before was a prompt engineer. Someone who knows how to ask the right question to get the AI to provide you with the proper result.
Wow, that's exciting.
You guys are super scary, man.
It's gonna be a lot of fun to get there.
Yeah. I hear. One's better than the other. All right, do I have a motion to go into public here? Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second to go to a public hearing, discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. All right, we're in public hearing. Does anybody want to speak? Is there anybody on the internet that wants to speak on the CDA ordinance?
No hands.
Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? I'll move to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same. Public hearing is closed. Go to B, discussion and possible action, village, community development authority. You have the ordinance that was written by Paul. This is to remind people, if you don't, as a avenue to get funding for public projects. It allows us to get funds from the federal government at discounted interest rates and extended terms for the loans.
I will make a motion to approve the Community Development Authority resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and second discussion.
It's not a resolution, it's an ordinance.
Oh,
It doesn't matter.
oh, sorry, I just read it on here, but you're right.
Yes.
I read.
Yeah, I know you did. Yeah.
Sorry.
We'll change it to ordinance.
Ordinance, yep, and change it.
Thank you, Michael. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right. Number 3, discussion and possible action, county KP bridge construction approval. Evan, is this for you or is that Brian? Who put this on?
I put this on after just checking with Brian Berquist on this. So basically the bridge project is going forward here in 2023. The county has requested that we just formally approve this item. It, I think, had been previously agreed to, but they had the terms included here for your review. And we will just simply return the completed documents back to the county upon village board approval.
Is this on Mill Street? Is this on Mill Street?
No, this is at KP right down there by Market Street.
Yeah.
This has been in the works for probably 3 years and it's been approved numerous times. We have, most of it will be paid by the state. We have 50,000 for amenities for basically decor, I would say.
Most of it's being paid by the federal government, actually.
Well, yeah, okay, whatever. But we've been going through DOT.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So do I have a motion? I believe this is a resolution, right? No, agreement,
So it's just an agreement.
all right.
I motion to approve the county road KP Bridge reconstruction agreement, that's in Dane County. I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion in a second, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same, so moved. All right, number 4, discussion and possible action, well project pay app number 6. This one's gotta be you.
Yeah, that's what I got. Mike kind of hit on some of the high points, so you guys are getting pretty familiar with this form. But every month now, I suspect we'll have some pay applications. So Fortson's plugging away on well 2, as Mike kind of hit on. Well 2 is the goal right now, weather dependent, get that site cleaned up in time for the fall season to start. Well 2 and well 3 are both starting to take shape. If you've seen either one of them, roofs on, doors are starting to get on. Inside, there's some HVAC work and some plumbing work going on. They're doing some exterior concrete now to try and get well 2 site, again, prepared for the spring, so. By way of this process and application for payment, Fortson submitted payment request for $164,463.19. I probably haven't included you into the whole process, but then we put a disbursement request in here as well with any other invoices for the month. This goes to the DNR, and then DNR wires the money back to the village for reimbursement, so. That's why this process has to keep going every month, is action in order to get the disbursement from the department. Otherwise, if there's any questions on progress or.
Yeah, I know we've heard on, well 2, how's well 3 coming?
They have pretty much put all of their forces at 2 to get that buttoned up, and then they're gonna transition over to 3. In terms of the big ticket items, we're still looking probably still late summer into fall for pump, generator, motor controls, things of that nature to show up. So their goal is to get it enclosed and buttoned up, which they've done, and now it's the waiting game of supply chain, so. The last update we got was September-ish, October-ish for the generator.
Yeah, I know the generator, but I'm more curious on the pumps and stuff. I mean, the generators for emergencies and stuff like that. I'd like to know when we think the pump would actually get there, so we can actually
Sure.
start testing it and getting it going before it gets full.
Yep, so the pump is actually part of one of the ways the contractors can get paid through this is stored materials. So the pump's already in the hands of the well contractor, just waiting for installation, so they're waiting for the building to get put up. And then the missing link there will be the motor control centers or MCCs. And that's roughly this summer, but those schedules, they were not very set in stone, is what we've been seeing.
I guess I think it would be best if we get that stuff, we get it installed and going. I know the generator's there to backup in case we lose electricity, but it'd be nice to have that all in there and get things up and running.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm happy to provide updates when I get them on the MCCs, the system integrator that supplies that is struggling with supply chain.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So, am I confused, because I swear there was one where they said they didn't want to go active with the pump until the generator was there?
It's a decision to be made for sure. There is,
can you refresh me on the?
so the system you guys have right now, both well 1 and well 2 have backup power. In terms of capacities, well 2 provides a lot more water for the village. The way we've set up the contract documents is well 2 cannot be taken offline until well 3 is running. So that you don't have just well 1 as your main source of water. The question then becomes the comfort level of switching to well 2, and maybe that's not where you're.
No, that's not where I'm headed.
But getting well 3 fired up is a prerequisite for moving to the well 2 pump. In order to make sure that there's sufficient supply. So one thing that we've been kicking around, and obviously I misunderstood, is getting 3 started can occur without a generator. But then having the generator there, I think would be the prerequisite still for them moving over to well two, so that you've got both well one and well three operable and with backup power before you take two out of line.
So what I'm asking is for both, for well three to come online, but maintain well two until the generator comes.
Right.
But there's no reason to just let it sit there, it might as well be working. And we could work out all the problems before we take well two down and find out. So I'm not suggesting that we take well two down before we have the generator. Because then that defeats the whole redundancy of why we're having well three. But there's no reason to leave well three offline until the generator comes when we could be using it.
I was just making
Yeah.
sure that anything catastrophic to the system by just.
Well, see, to me, we're still in that, right? If something happens to well two, we're gonna run out of water in 3 to 4 days, basically, right?
Right.
So why not have well three up and in case something like that happens? Yeah, it's not ideal without, but why have it dormant? It just, I think we get it online when we can. And obviously, we don't pull well two off until the generator's there, because again, Jerry.
Economics are gonna take care of everything you're talking about, Jay. The contractor's gonna want paid for that stuff. They're not gonna pay for it till it's installed. So as soon as he's got the material to put it together, he's gonna do that.
Okay,
In his best interest. And
yeah,
that naturally trickles down to our.
sure, good, okay, very good.
I have one stupid question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do
You're on
we collect,
stupid question.
well, do we collect lien waivers on this, when we do
Yes.
this?
Yeah, every,
Do we do it through a tariff company, or do you guys do that?
we collect them on behalf of the village through the contractor submits them with the monthly pay applications. We make sure that everybody's getting paid and there's no disputes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part of our monthly check behind the scenes.
Has there ever been a study of like, how many people our water table can actually supply?
Not that I'm aware of. Jerry, can I turn around and look at you?
No, there's never been a study related to that. I don't think, minimal water supply underground would be of any concern for village growth. I think I would say 100+ years.
Okay.
And may not have to do that. We have a lot of water available, not very.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion that we accept, approve payment application number 6 for the well project.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So move, thank you, Evan. Are you staying for the library or?
I have a few things hanging out for, I think.
Oh, okay.
Brian took off for France, left me here.
Oh, lucky you. All right, discussion and possible action, village library repair contract and CNC construction fall honor. No,
I didn't see
are you
it.
taking this?
I can try to work through this one, sure. So as Paul outlined in his memorandum tonight, the village has been dealing with two entities, CNC Services, who was contracted to do the repairs on the roof at Rosemary Garfoot Library, and then Granite, which was the bond provider for CNC. CNC, shortly after receiving the village's contract, more or less, for lack of a better word, left the project. A lot of things that remain unfinished. There's a punch list that's been attached to this memo for your review of some of the outstanding items that Brian Berquist reviewed related to the repairs that have been underway. So at this time, the village is kind of at a crossroads. The village has options of whether they want to allow the bond company to have CNC brought back onto the project to complete the outstanding work. And that would come under the assumption that they will help oversee that the product is finished to completion. Or the village can terminate the contract with CNC and the bond company and use the remaining funds, which have not been obligated to seek out an additional contractor to finish the project at the village's choosing. So tonight, the village board is left with the decision on which way they would like this contract to be handled and the repairs to be addressed moving forward.
I just have a question, I guess.
Go ahead.
Sure.
I'm in agreement, we wouldn't want to use CNC with a bond holder supervising, I wouldn't think. That sounds not like a good outcome. Is there opportunity to have a local contractor who did the punch list to see what the money might be? Like,
That's kind of what we're looking at is one, the bond company stays control of this and we keep putting pressure on them and then they go and get people to finish the work. Or we let them go and then the village takes control of the project, what's left on that punch list. And then we go and get contracts using the 63,000 that we have not paid CNC. I guess my question is, I'd like to know, what does Pam think about that? And Jerry, what do you think about that?
I guess to sum it up, I think if we're willing to, or we're able to, probably is a better term, get a good local contractor, probably go less. There'll be an issue of who's gonna be overseeing the work from the village staff. I would assume Brian Burquist and Bill is got work with those two parties. And then yeah, the big key would be finding somebody that's willing to take on the work.
Judy?
That's why I thought we went this route in the first place, we couldn't find anyone locally, isn't it, right?
No, we have never attempted to hire anybody locally.
And if you look at the punch list, it's a lot small. I mean, it's not the big project. It's finishing up stuff. Andy?
Just anecdotally, I know Pam doesn't necessarily trust CNC, but she just wants it work done. So as long as we come up with the process that's gonna get this checked off, yeah, we'll be fine. I don't know the answer to that is, so.
Cody and then Cameron.
So my question is, I'm looking at some of this, like. A contractor would probably jump at 60 grand to do all this work, like a local, like a midtown
Well,
construction.
we're not gonna give them 60,000.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of. If we were to take it on ourselves, do we have to replace 5 dented roof vents?
That's exactly right.
Can we,
That's a conversation we've been having in staff. Yeah, there's things that could be tweaked on the list.
right, like, so village staff could make a different punch list, put this out to bid, it comes in at $28,000 and we're up 37 up, right?
Actually, Brian, not this Brian, but our engineer, I thought the last thing he told us was about, he thought it was about $15,000 worth of work.
I hope we go that route.
Yeah, the only thing is, go ahead, Cameron.
Well, those, I was gonna say, that you take Doug's suggestion, go try to find a local contractor to do this. Maybe once we find one, then we can, go the path of potentially cutting ties with the bond thing, but I wouldn't wanna do that and then all of a sudden be stuck and not being able to have anyone do any of the work.
Andy?
Well, I mean, arguably, the library is one of like the things that draws people to the village. So I'd hate to not have it be in pristine condition after we have gone through all of this. Like to have everything just knocked out, done the right way, so we don't have to deal with it later. I don't know. So there's, I mean, and I'm not implying that the local contractor is gonna not do that, but this list was generated, I'm assuming, by library staff or?
No,
Okay.
by our engineer.
By your engineer, okay.
And Jerry probably, right? Brian, and you did the list?
Things like. The dented vents, unless you climb up on the roof, or specifically stand over them.
You're not gonna see it.
Right. You're not gonna see it.
Yeah. Okay.
So. It would definitely be a pick and choose thing, what we would consider leading. But some of those things, and the dented roof vents is a good example. That's one that, it's not gonna make a difference if those are replaced. It's not gonna impact the aesthetics of the building or future residents to move to the building process.
And for context, after they were doing a crummy job, you went through more so with a fine tooth comb and found more and more and more, correct?
Well, not necessarily, that was a comprehensive list, like we would normally generate for any project. For instance, you've got some soffit fascia issues on that new wall of the creek. As the project nears its end, we have to make decisions, we're gonna go this way for years. You delete that in return for, negotiated amount not included in the pay request.
Okay.
Not new science.
One of the other considerations with this going on, the agenda now was the sense of urgency behind any type of decision, knowing that contractors are gonna be in high demand beginning now for the better part of the next 6 months. So the longer we delay, the less likely it is this is gonna be wrapped up anytime soon.
I'm just playing the other side. If we go the route where we release the bond company of their responsibility, then we are also saying that we're not gonna go after liquidated damages that are in the tens of thousands right now. But that could be a battle anyways. And I think if it's true where it's 15,000, you still have about 48,000, and that's about the amount of liquid damages. Plus, my whole thing is I'm not looking to get 100% of that, but my original response was that we've spent a lot of staff time, attorneys, Jerry, Brian, on trying to resolve this stuff, and that's all at a cost. I just want to throw everything on the table. I think the quickest, cleanest, and I'd probably be in favor of it, is just us doing it on our own. Because I'm not convinced that the bond company is gonna have any better luck finding contractors than we are. And how long do we want this to drag on? And like I say, some of this stuff is cleanup stuff that maybe we could even get a group of friends of the library to go and clean up some of the debris and stuff like that. Yeah, whatever. I mean, so I think, again, but it will take staff time to obviously coordinate and do this. So I just want to make sure everybody, when we do this, we're they're gonna wash their hands of us, and we're kind of on our own right now. Michael?
When you said liquid damages, the tens of thousands, what did you mean by that?
Well, they basically get charged $500 a day past the due date of the timeline that they agreed to.
Okay, that's.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's that $40,000 thing.
Yeah.
What does village staff think what's their I mean, I'd rather go.
it was pretty neutral. I guess I didn't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I think Paul was gonna look into it. That was kind of when it was discussed at staff earlier this month. I didn't get a strong feeling one way or the other. Did you?
I think the staff was more along the lines of parting ways with CNC and moving forward with a separate contractor.
Us handling it ourselves. I know they weren't happy with CNC.
That's how I read Bolton and Meyer. It seems staff was more in favor of what Ryan just described.
All right, what are people's feelings here?
There an opportunity to get a couple more grand out of them.
No, actually, it's the opposite. We held back money. So we have basically some of their money. So it's not getting more, again, whatever the difference of actually making the fixes and what we pay out, for what we have in this account will be what we end up with. So it's not like we're getting money from them. We're just held back money and they're not asking for it. And that's, obviously, that would be part of the deal. That
Right.
if we leave, that money's ours. They don't get anything. It's all done. And we did do some checking on making sure the subs and the material people were paid. Because we don't want, is it a lien or something? Right. So Brian has done a pretty good job on checking most of the major suppliers and they have been paid.
No, that was my word.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, I'll make a motion that we fully terminate the agreement with CNC and look for local contractors.
Okay, I don't, that's not really what, CNC's been terminated. It's the bond company. Yeah, right, is that correct? The motion should be releasing the bond
Release the bond
company up
company,
there because they have taken over.
It says with CNC by negotiating releasing the claims with CNC and the bond council. So, and here it kind of says both, but either or.
Yeah, the last paragraph says.
Right, okay, to release the bond council.
Well, let's just, I guess I thought,
Well, won't we need won't we need some kind of agreement?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They're gonna have to sign something, we're gonna have to agree to it, so
Okay.
whatever, I think we give direction to Paul to draft the settlement, right?
And he's basically gonna say, CNC, your contract's over, you have to sign this, right? Like, that's what we have to do,
Well,
right?
my understanding, CNC is not even in the picture anymore. It's the bond, we're now over to the bond company. They're taking responsibility, unless I'm wrong on my
I think the
understanding of
bond
this
company,
situation.
I think the bond company is gonna engage CNC to come back to the project and find a way for them to come back if we ask them to see this through to completion per the original terms of the contract. So the option is to basically inform the bond company that we are terminating that agreement. Which in turn would drop them as the bond company as well.
Cause our contract still has that $40,000 of liquidated, like, we get rid of the contract, that $40,000 of liquidated assets, and the contract goes away also.
Yeah, it didn't go.
So we have to, I don't know if we're negotiating that with CNC or the bond. company
Well,
or-
we have been first of all, we negotiated with the insurance. And then they moved it over to the bond company because they didn't want to take it on. So I thought we were dealing with the bond company, understanding that, the person who CNC is the problem, obviously, but we can,
The second to last paragraph. it says-
yeah,
it Says that we may have to bring CNC back to complete the project. I think we want to be done with that, correct?
right.
The
But it says the bond company may bring it back, so to me, they're dealing, now CNC is gonna have a deal with the bond company, not us. We can just, basically, what we wanna do is terminate, we can do both, agreement with the bond company and CNC, but I thought CNC was out of the picture from our standpoint.
I'll just make the motion that we retain the $60-some thousand and terminate all agreements with CNC and bond, just, list them all, and then, like I think Doug said, Paul will go draft the appropriate.
Yeah, we don't need to mention the money,
Okay.
they don't need to know how much we.
Yeah, cause I think if we release CNC from the contract, then we're releasing the bond as well. So
Yeah,
CNC has.
I thought we had already done that, that's what I thought, because they didn't, to fill their contract. And I thought we had a motion probably 2-3 months ago.
Required to engage them about finishing it for the terms before
Right.
it can officially go to the next.
Cause you remember we did, I think that was 2-3 months ago that we did a motion.
It was a motion to declare CNC in default of the contract, which then allows the village to go after the bond. And the
There you
bond
go.
company.
Thank you. All right, I agree with Cameron. You wanna just put it, just might as well do this.
So we do need a motion, or do we have to just have?
No, we need Paul wants a motion, so we should do a motion, then he'll write it up and we'll probably see it again.
I don't know what you said, Cameron.
I don't remember what I said either. Well, I said the money, but you said not to say the money, so just,
To terminate the,
I'll make a motion that we terminate our relationship with, both CNC and the bond company with regards to the punch list for the library road project.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, Jerry, you're comfortable with that?
Yep.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same, so moved. All right, discussion and possible action on the village MF4 permit.
So I'm on, I think we start on page 122. It's a lengthy report, that the village has a privilege of being permitted through the state for its storm sewer, just like you are for wastewater, because of your proximity to Black Earth Creek. So one of the requirements of the MS4 permits is that an annual report be completed, made publicly available, highlighting all the things that the village has to do as a part of that permit. It includes everything from public outreach to illicit discharge detection to quantifying how many tons of sediment were removed by the public works crew. Within this document, summarizes all of the 2022 efforts to remove TSS, which is total suspended solids, from impervious surfaces in the village before it enters Black Earth Creek. There's a number of items in here related to what's done for public outreach and education, illicit discharge, again, quantifying cleanup efforts from public works, and then also both during construction and post-construction stormwater management, talking about BMPs, best management practices that are throughout the village to collect stormwater and that first flush after a rain to capture the total suspended solids that are in the runoff before it enters the creek. So by way of the permit, pretty much every year, this report gets brought to the village board for comments and then a motion to approve and submit. Otherwise, I'm happy to do living questions.
Cameron?
I'm on page 134. Brian, just number 8, it says that, pick 6, so, well, we give more than 5,000 people, which I don't even know if we're technically over.
4,100.
So we only need to pick 4 topics of interest, but I see 7 circled. I don't know what.
130.
134. Well, I think you that's a minimum, but you can do more.
Yeah, you can do more. If, I guess, why are we doing 7? I mean, I don't.
We want to protect the.
Well, I'm not
That's my thought.
sure. Okay. So we're doing 7. I mean, that's fine. I'm just curious why, we only had to do 4 and we're doing 7.
And a lot of these, I guess, are not specifically for the MS4, it's public works duties that.
Okay.
Making sure that construction sites are preventing erosion, making sure the streets are swept, sumps are cleaned out.
That was kind of my assumption, is that maybe some of this is already kind of happening, so we're gonna circle it. Okay, correct. That's fine.
6 and 7 are there to do those. Because numerous factors.
Sure. And then is there anything new in this one from last year? Like, you know, like what kind of educational activities do we offer and do and all that stuff?
Yeah, Becky started a new program with Frank. She's administrating that. We will adopt a storm sewer drain somewhere in your neighborhood.
Keep it clean.
You could, get right over there. After rain, or you know, whoever's in the curb line.
Okay, and it's all good. I'm glad we're doing more than we have to or whatever. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't, you know, saying we're doing this stuff and then we're not doing much, but I mean, the doctor and all that stuff.
Yeah, Michael?
You were talking about total suspended solids. How do we keep that out of the? What does that mean?
So the best management practices, like a infiltration basin or a pond or some sort of retention device, that first flush of rain, usually the first half inch or so, is generally termed first flush. That carries the dust particles, the TSS or total suspended solids. And then by way of directing that stormwater into a BMP, we can settle it out, collect it in sumps, things of that nature, so that then the remaining rainwater behind it generally assumed to be less TSS, and then that's what gets conveyed directly to the creek.
Cody?
I was gonna make a motion to accept
Oh,
as presented.
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to accept as presented.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So move. All right, discussion and possible action regarding village parks manual signs / village logo branding.
So, I'm back, in regards to this project. I believe this was originally brought to the village board in, if I remember right, it was the first time was 2020. Since then, we've had some changes or some discussions regarding the village logo policy. That has been brought back and now finally approved. And, Michael brought it to our attention as, you know, many people, or we had one person that, had donated money to get new signage up on, Glacial Valley Conservancy. And, so I was moving forward with that project. He had noticed that after my discussion with Parks and Recreation. And so it brought my attention that this wasn't approved yet, because I really thought it was. So it's back, for the village board to look at. In consideration to the last discussion at the village board meeting and plan commission, the only changes at that time, were in regards to the color. I know Cameron had brought up colors of the color line of the different, signage that we had include go up into the mountain biking area and some of our other trails, so that had been changed. And the only other thing was to make sure that the logo could be added to that sign, so. Just looking to. Everyone did, because Jay and I talked about it too, thinking that we.
Yeah, the last time, the color thing, because it was just one sign, it was like.
Yeah, it's green.
It was like neon green with white text on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hate when my kids will see that, and I can't read the words, I was like, we can't do that this time, but no, so this all looks. I'm not an accessibility expert, but this all looks accessible and as well, light text on our page, so.
So I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
I know you had talked about, you know, your community signs, 8 feet being long, your other ones being 6 and 6. Did you ever get a 6 foot and 6 foot on the neighborhood and the mini signs? I asked for a quote, did you ever get a quote, what, a 5 foot sign?
I don't know. No quotes were received prior to this meeting, mainly the fact that this has been out there for so long. I couldn't put more time into this right now. So if the board decides they'd like to see that change and go to 5 foot or 4 foot signs, that's what I would change it to here, knowing that you're probably gonna see a reduction in cost.
And that's just one of my concerns. Right now, in the village, most park signs are 5 feet or less size right now. Like generally, an average one has a 5-foot one that says the name of the park, and then there's a 4-foot wood one that just says the village of Cross Plains on it underneath. And that's basically the standard design of our park signs right now. So increasing them to 8 feet and increasing them to 6 feet will just add cost to these signs. And I don't know if we really want to do that. I don't know. A lot of people talk to me about the potholes in their streets and not updating park signs as a concern and a way to save money. So that's a consideration. I know that Mike wants to update these park signs. And right now our current wooden ones, I sort of feel do a fine job explaining where our parks are. They get the job done, they're there, they tell you that's a village park. I sent an email to a fellow who works at the Middleton High School or through the school district. I've spoken to him before about some of their tech classes, like opportunities for students. And whether or not he would have students who could possibly manufacture new wooden signs for the new parks that are going in. He said he just sent me back an email to get in touch with these other individuals, and I never pursued it. But in speaking with him before, he basically said that most of the times in sort of programs like that, the village would just have to pay for the materials and the time of the students would be just donated. So that is just an option to really get some signs that would not cost very much into our new parks without going in and spending $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 per sign at these various locations. This is just a way fiscally for us to possibly save money. That's how I'm presenting this, especially with the students doing work. There's also, on wooden signs, if you wanted to place the village logo, you could actually manufacture a 8-inch or a 10-inch by 10-inch metal sign and have the village logo printed on that, and then screw that onto the wooden board that then says Glacial Valley Park. Because now you have the logo there that is part of the branding, still a wooden sign, but you're not paying for a polyurethane 2-foot by 6-foot sign that's then has printing on it. I mean, these are just ways to save money. This is what the Ice Age Trail has done over in their trailhead over on Lewis Street. They basically have a wooden sign that says Ice Age Trail, Cross Plains segment, and then there's a metal sign that is actually their logo that's screwed to the board. Just presenting this, is there anyone interested in pursuing this?
All right, I got Cody and then Andy.
I was just gonna say, like, I appreciate your cost analysis looking into this, but I'm also looking at the time that Parks and Rec has spent on this project and like the looks of it. I understand you can save money by screwing stuff to wood. Wood's gonna rot. Like it's gonna look kind of cheesy, like you kind of half-hearted it. Like I spoke with Mike. I mean, he's got a lot of time and effort into this stuff. I'd be in favor of going with the new sign thing just because of the new parks, the investment we've made. Wanting to, have people in our parks. It's a lot more inviting when you see one of these signs than something where they have to go around every 2 years, paint them, and just the upkeep on them. That's my opinion.
Okay, got Andy and then.
Yeah, I think I go a bit on that. Obviously I support anytime we're having like engagement between students in the real world, using the skills that they learn in classes and applying them. I just think one of the elements that we've been missing as a village is like an aesthetic. When you come into the village, like having all the signage be the same, similar, professional, welcoming, all of that, that I just don't necessarily want to leave that to the chance of what group of students are in what class, and the fact that we don't have a relationship built. But I know the technology is there at the high school. That's like they got bells and whistles, and we could probably build rockets to Mars at this point.
Could they CNC like wood on CNC machines, like have the
sure.
drill, like do
Without a doubt.
things like crazy things on wood, like drill
without a doubt.
well, that'd be
Without a doubt.
crazy.
Without a doubt.
Wow.
So I think maybe what we should be considering is building that relationship. And I know that there's a very specific human being at the high school and at the district level that's supposed to be building those relationships with our community. Where we can then have the opportunity for students in those various trades, classes to be helping with benches or landscaping or who knows what, and a variety of different things. But I would like to see some sort of more professional, universal, yeah, solution to that.
Judy?
I'm just gonna echo what those two say. I will support it.
Cameron?
And then what, I guess, it's been a long time since we talked about, was the plan to like update all of the signs, kind of the ones who just had?
No, the only way that would work is if I came to you asking for one.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So as of right now, the plan would be, even to go out with some type of donation type program, we do with our trees and our benches. I think that's an option. I think the committee itself will try and take up some of those things as well to discuss different options that we could do for funding. We currently have two new parks coming in the village, that were part of, development. So we have parkland dedication money that will be used to help update those parks, and signage will be a part of that process.
So the short-term plan would just be to do the one sign.
Yeah, so Team Hillenbrand has donated $3,000 for this project specifically, for both signs at Hillenbrand, at the end of Hillenbrand, which is a conservancy easement that we have that goes up to the Glacier Valley Conservancy, along with the area that across from the fire station, which also close to Glacier Valley.
Cody, Doug, and myself.
I was just gonna, excuse me, this would be coming out of like the Parks and Rec budget, though, correct? Like when you build a new park, that's built into it, and you have like a $50,000 for a new park, new equipment, this would be part of that.
Correct. It'll be added into as new playgrounds or new parks that are added into the village.
I like the signage, and I like a little bit bigger and bolder to show parks in our community. I do think there's an opportunity to partner with the high school a little bit more. I know they did a great job with Legion Memorial with some of the cat grants and some of that work, so I think that's an awesome.
I guess, there's two things. I like the signs here because they have good information on it. It actually gives them an address and what the park is and the hours that the park is open. I guess I'm a little different with Doug. I think our natural resources and stuff, I'd like smaller signs. I think an 8-foot sign is gonna be like a billboard to me. I would like, the signs that we have, I'm thinking at the library there, would we even want a 6-foot in the middle of that small park and some of the other parks that we look at? So I personally like the design and stuff. I would like to see actually smaller. I think that takes away when you have a billboard sign versus a sign that's identifiable. I mean, I can't imagine an 8-footer. I mean, that just seems really large to me. So I would be more inclined to go with a smaller sign to meet the size of our parks. I'm looking at the one at Brewery Road. I mean, again, there's a 4-footer there. To go 6 foot, that's almost gonna block the whole view of the park and the bridge. I just think small, I like the design because of the name and the address and the hours, but I would try to go smaller than larger. So I'm taking a little different approach than Doug. Same with Xander Park. I mean, that's a beautiful park along the creek there. Do I want an 8-foot sign there? That, for me, that takes away from it. I think it needs to be identified with the address and everything, but I would prefer smaller, just so it doesn't overwhelm what we're trying to sell in the park and the conservancy.
And I'm completely fine with going smaller. Michael's request of that, I wasn't against. It was more of, okay, now I'm coming with a 4-foot sign, 5-foot sign.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But I'd rather have it here from you tonight and what you'd like to see, and then I'll update the manual and.
I'm open. The only thing I'd say is, having spent a lifetime finding baseball fields all over the world, I can't say I'm not, I go by them sometimes and miss them. I know I have kids talking to everything else, but that's kind of what I was just. No, I like the brand too. I like using a consistent logo and having that look good.
No, I agree with you on it. And like I say, maybe Bear Park
It's
would
bigger,
be a
right.
bigger one, but I mean, you look at, a lot of our parks are neighborhood parks. Like even the Melody Parkway, I mean, you put a big 6-footer, it's gonna block, cause there's short, small lots, you know, where it's odd shape, so. Like I say, I would like some flexibility where it's not just 6 to 8, I would think, you know. I would leave that up to me, up to your discretion on what fits, and I would go from a 4 to an 8 footer.
That's what I was just gonna say.
You know?
Is there a way we can just leave this up to parks to the side?
Yeah,
You don't have to micromanage all of those.
no, I agree.
Yeah, however. Yeah, I don't know how we decide that or not, or what,
Oh.
I mean.
We would just put it in the motion that we would accept this, but have a range of 2 to 4 to 2 to 8.
At Parks and Rec's discretion.
Quite frankly, I think it should be Mike's. I don't think
Director of Parks
the
and
committee,
Recreation.
that is to me, director decision when we look at the parks, what size they are. I mean, you just put a new playground in a 0.4 acres. I mean, do we really want to throw an 8 footer on that?
Or
Yeah.
6 foot sign.
Well, because you also have to consider, so some of our parks have longer names, so if you condense the sign down, then you're gonna have a whole.
Neighborhood park.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But like,
But for that argument though, Bear Park is only 8 letters, and you're gonna have an 8 foot sign for
Yeah.
8 letters.
What I'm saying is it's not the ladder size, it's
Yeah,
the size of
of the sign.
I think it should be up to
And the
Mike.
national standards are all based on, I mean, there are standards out there that I kind of took these off of. Now, most national standards are for your community parks. They're not for your neighborhood. So I just obviously condensed it. The reason I went with 6 feet was because the conservancy entrance signs were 6 feet tall. So I just thought that made it easier. When we're looking at the
Like
signs.
where?
So the linear signs that we have here,
Yeah.
yeah, so like what we'll be putting in at Glacial Valley, that's how tall that they stand.
Yeah, but that has a lot more information.
Yeah, they do have a lot.
You know, map and what you can, while the other sign is basically the address, the name of it and the hours.
Yeah, and I get it now. Like with this Glacial Valley Conservancy, like I was asking you, because this one's gonna be, I mean, if you do a 6 foot one, if we, you know, we are really, I don't tell you we're not changing the sizing. But like the 6 foot tall one, and with your dimensions of it being a foot or a foot and a half on the ground, means its total height is gonna be 7.5 feet tall, like when you're done.
Mhm.
So putting a sign like this down on Bourbon Road, where there is that easement between the apartment buildings and those houses, and cars are going by, sure, I could see a sign that size working there. But if you're gonna place this exact same sign up at the top of Hill and Van Drive, which is basically 2 houses there, and the sign right now is 4 feet tall, and it says pedestrian access to Village Conservancy Area Trail, that's this tall and hardly anything, and you're gonna put a 7.5 foot tall sign up between 2 houses? That seems kind of like overkill.
big, bold and beautiful, baby.
Well, it's also like
this.
to let people know that it exists, you know, like having moved into the village 5 years ago, it was really hard for me to find those places. And I know why they did, it was because neighbors don't want you to know that it exists. Because they don't want you walking between houses all day every day.
Living.
But it is noticed though, it clearly says pedestrian access, I mean, it's their yard, there's even a trail there.
I mean,
It's, it's grass.
living at the head of a trail
I get it.
and watching like during the COVID lockdowns, how many people, I did not know they are not from Cross Plains, they were coming to walk that trail. It would be a little bit nicer that it can be seen like, hey, here is the trailhead, not through my yard, not behind my house, but here's where I'm supposed to go. Like, you can look it up on Google Maps, but once you get there, it could be nice for those to have bigger signage with this type of information.
Well, yeah, well, like where you live, your road though leading up to that is a gate, it's a road, whereas when I'm talking about the top of the hill, it's just a yard that they're walking actually through. You don't need a billboard. If you
Yeah.
drive up into that circle and you just kind of look, you're gonna see this post right there.
They're also not here to talk about their objections to this change, or,
Where they notified
well, they also have purchased their homes knowing that they're there.
that there's a need, right?
But again, I believe that discretion is what we should be giving our department heads, and they can make a call. That's why I don't think we should have set size. I think it needs to be looking at the circumstances and what you want to achieve to make the good decision. So,
All right, I'd like to make a motion to accept this as presented with the decision of sizing of the sign to be left to the Parks and Rec director.
A second.
all right, I have a motion and a second, any discussion, Doug?
The big thing I'd say is in addition, you got off looking for ball fields, so I get lost on my snowmobile, especially when we UP, I do like a little better signage. That's it, I'm in agreement with discretion for money.
And then just the one sign right there, I mean, I know that's a smaller sign, but like the signs in public areas are important in case there's an emergency. I mean, like you need to know where you are, and if you got a tiny little sign somewhere and you're not gonna,
Yeah.
it's a safety issue, it's an accessibility issue, there's a lot of reasons to have, decent sized signs in our public spaces.
Nor am I arguing that we should have massive signs everywhere. Just
Again, discretion.
what makes sense.
Trust Mike isn't gonna put a billboard somewhere.
It's that balancing act, and again, what I would suggest is if people have concerns with the number of signs and stuff, when the budget comes up, and we talk about the base budget, there's a line item in his budget for signs. We can ask him what he's planning to do with that money, and then we have that opportunity to give some feedback on that. So there's always this avenue every year to look at that. So, but I think they need flexibility because this is something, when you come to signage, it's really should be based on need, not on a regulation. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right. All right, discussion and possible action, KP Highway Reconstruction Project.
So Brian put a memo together for the board on 187. Brian brought it up. The Dane County Highway Department has requested that the village inform them of their plans for the KP project. So this is somewhat in conjunction with the bridge that, the agreement was just passed earlier tonight on. Basically running from that bridge or Bourbon Road thereabouts to the western edge of the village and redoing KP. With the understanding that, Dane County Highway would take half the project cost in exchange for turning the roadway over to the village, just like what County P was a few years back. So the breakdown there, it's ballpark about $2.9 million project. Dane County's portion be 1.4, leaving the village with 1.4. In parallel to this, the village did secure $270,000 in grant money for the path on the south and east sides of KP. So that leaves about a $1.2 million remaining cost for the village to pick up. There is another grant being applied for to be determined, so obviously we're not going to factor that in. But what Dane County is looking for then is what the village's plans are for that work and when Dane County would be needed to obligate funds for that.
All right, I guess a couple things, just to point out from the memo. That grant, we have until 2026. It is $1.2 million, which is a whole load of money. That would equal about 3,000 square feet of the Village Hall police station, which I think is a higher priority. I think Park Street, we've been talking about that, and we're asking for help from the federal government. We see that as a priority. I personally think that we don't need to commit for 2024, 2025. I think we sit on this and wait until the 2026 budget, and then we decide, or the 2025 budget. I don't think there's pressure. I personally think we've got to make some decisions. This is a big chunk of money. I'd really like to make sure we have the money in the funds needed for a nice village hall and police station, and that we don't have to make cuts because we've run out of borrowing. So I don't see this as a high priority. It just, and this is the county's way of reducing their operating costs. I don't know if you're aware, this is what they're doing around Dane County, is paying for half and then making the jurisdiction take over. Madison's fighting it. Madison has done the numbers and it's just a bad deal. I'm not sure overall, but right now, that's not something that needs to go into great detail, but I just don't think we should be committing $1.2 million to this right now. Jerry?
They do need a year.
Okay.
To reply to them, so if you wanna pick 25, 26, whatever, it doesn't make any difference to me. But, it could affect the grant money, but.
Well, it looks like the grant money is good until 2026.
But there are some other applications out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I don't know what the drift was, that picking up steam, and this would be part of that trail. I think it would be wise for us to hold off. That's just my 2 cents worth. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's fine, but pick a year for our response to.
Oh, I see.
I recommend 24. Because I don't know if you've been out there recently, it's not exactly awesome to get from the end of Bourbon to the end of those developments as far as the shape of things. And also still gives us time to figure out what Dane County's objectives are here and whether or not we can afford X, Y, and Z, and what's gonna be up in the air.
The 24 puts us before we build the station. I
We
think
can still, we can still push it off to 25 and 26.
No, they wanted, I think that's what we should say is 26 then.
You want to wait to the very last moment in time.
Cause I wanna see what our village hall police station comes in. This is like our own budget. You can't, in your own home, you can't replace your windows, buy a new car and go, okay, I'm gonna correct myself. Most people can't go out and buy a new car, go on vacation and replace all their windows in 1 year. You've gotta space it out. And next year, we'll be looking at almost 500,000 for architect and cost estimates for village hall. Then you're looking at, we budgeted 4.5. I'm not sure that's gonna be enough. We're at 15,000 square feet, but every time we look at another building, everybody sees something, well, we should do this, we should do that. I'm not sure 15,000 square feet is gonna be enough. So the question is, why not wait? This is a road, versus getting our building built, and we have an option of pushing it to after we have that, and then we will clearly know where we sit. If we do it in 24, we could be shorting ourselves, and then we're gonna be cutting that out.
We don't have to do anything in 24 though. I mean, that's the point. We're just saying like, we'll get back to you in 24.
No, they wanna know when we're gonna do it.
Like split, like putting the.
Yeah, cause they want a budget
their
for it.
On the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so my feeling is 2026, let's, stretch it as far as we can. We can always go earlier.
Okay.
And if we get lucky to get another grant, we can do the bike path without doing the road necessarily.
No, we can't.
You can? How come?
Because the block's too close to the existing road.
Oh,
The road plans pull the road in,
towards Rip's property?
slide it over in the right of way, giving us room along the block for the path.
Alright. Well, I guess would be kind of 2026 then. That is my opinion. That's a lot of money. And I think there's, even here with Park Street, I'm not sure how we're gonna deal with that, because people are gonna wanna do that in 2024, 2025, I mean. There's all kinds, that sewer and water line is just terrible down there. You gotta make choices. Cameron?
Why was the project originally intended to be completed shortly after the bridge is replaced? Is there a particular reason for that?
Yeah, the bridge is gonna mimic the one down here in Highway B. We're gonna finally have the bridge with sidewalk on it.
Yep.
So we part of connecting pedestrian access to go out. Once the bridge is done, so we had a legitimate path across the street there, then the intent was to, upgrade the path. Continuing around the corner.
Over the development.
Oh, like in front of Milestone.
Yeah, there's a path that they just gotta make it bigger, like any footer.
I was confused, as in,
Yeah, it's a asphalt that's like it's really crumbling.
Yeah. That's not,
I do it.
yeah.
Go by the sign that says no walking.
So what do you, it needs to be bigger. What are other people's thoughts?
Something about that one, but never mind.
I'll still look for it.
I did too.
What is other people's feeling? Doug?
Well, I'm hopeful that we can also, do the wellness center that is gonna be privately funded that will help save some money, and then I would also assume we can have a little less size of a municipal building, which I was an advocate for having more space in there for some recreational things, so I think there's a couple things going on, and I don't mind if we use 2026 as the date for this.
Can I have a motion?
I will make that motion to, let's see,
Notify Dane County.
notify Dane County for this project, and we will use the year 2000.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and second discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same.
Nay.
Okay. All right. Next one, thank you, Evan.
Yeah, thank you.
Discussion and possible action, Village Sustainability Committee. We voted on this, I believe, last month. Michael wanted it brought back, the actual language. This would be the language, basically, it's their mission statement with the standard language of the appointments being spread out over 3 years. To keep it within a list of committees, it just bumped the other two down. The wording stays the same. The only thing changed is the one went from J to K and the other one went from K to L. That's all.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the modification of village ordinance 5.02 as presented.
I would say.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So the next one. Discussion and possible action, Xander Park Broadwalk lighting. We have the email that was sent to Brian from the chief, from the Public Safety Committee with information they want from the board before we move forward. So if people don't mind, I've kind of pulled out the different parts to walk through this. So the first question is, and we're just gonna do show of hands because we're not gonna do a motion right away. How many people feel that there needs to be lights on boardwalk? Raise your hand. Okay, so we'll kind of move forward on that. So then what they're asking for is the type. I think the first thing we got to do is what we want to use for source, which would be hardline electric or solar. You can have a seat there, Cameron.
Should we, before we get to what type of power, I guess I haven't heard any conversations around this yet, so I'm kind of coming.
You read the email.
I read the email,
Okay.
but like, you're already asking questions like that, I have no idea. And like, do we need to talk about like what kind of lights we want there, like?
Well,
And
does it make
small
sense to
ones,
talk
big
about
bright
lights until you figure out how you're gonna get your source?
I guess not, but I.
That-
assume
that's
a
kinda-
Solar light would have some different power or size compared to a hard light one, so there,
Well, that's all will be on wattage,
okay,
right?
sure, okay, keep going then.
So. My feeling is we've looked at hardline for, that came up in the Lions discussion of the billion. Extremely expensive to bring power in. We already have solar on the Broadway from the fire station to the intersection. There's two, so there's already poles set up. If you look at the one by, and I'm not an electrician, but when you look at the one by the intersection, it looks like there's a power outlet coming out of the ground, so I don't know if they ran wires under there for some future hooking into that solar.
Which one, sorry?
The one by the intersection where the boardwalk comes in, if you look at it to the right of it, when you're facing it, there's a conduit that comes out and it has like electric, where you would look like you could put a plug-in things. It doesn't have a plug-in, it's just solid. So I don't know if there's wire there or that's just a conduit for some future thought.
There shouldn't be any wiring.
Is this on the fire station
Yeah.
side
I guess
or on the side of Midtown? What side you?
On the fire station. Okay, there's, right now down there, there's two solar. Right, one is right by the railroad tracks, between the railroad tracks and the fire station. The other one is right at the intersection of where the boardwalk has a crossing. Where it goes from, where you can cross it all the way to Main Street to
Right.
Bourbon, and then the other one goes straight across and then goes to Main Street.
Probably just the box in there because it was on the pole. All the wiring's put on it, it's top of it.
Well,
Part of the pole, you're saying that the junction box.
Yeah, it's just part of on the pole, doesn't, there
That would
actually
make
anything
that
behind it.
no, there is.
Oh,
There is, there's a gray conduit that comes out and it's shaped like an oval that's to the, by 6 inches from that.
It's on a light post.
It's right next to the light poles.
Would there be a battery pack?
Yeah, the battery pack, I don't think it has anything to do with the what's there. I'm just thinking that they may have, thinking that at some point we might want more lights. They ran some conduit. That's all I'm saying. It could be totally non-related. Right now, the lights have battery packs they have the solar panel, the battery pack and the light. That's what's sitting there right now. So the part from the intersection to the fire station path is lit, well lit.
And that's with electrical, not solar.
No.
No, solar, okay.
It was totally solar.
You guys got me all confused.
Yeah, solar's gotta be the way to go. Gotta be the way to go. Also has to
The
be.
reason I was asking if it was solar, because it actually lit decent, like,
Yeah.
if you'd have told me solar 7 years ago, I'd really get out of here.
Yeah, it's definitely solar. And it sounds like everybody's kind of all in. I think it fits with our sustainability plan and,
As long as they're. It's not causing light pollution and doing their best to, not project upwards.
right, but that will become from design. But what I'm trying to do is take this broad thing that they've asked us to do to narrow it down, right? They want to send something to Parks and Rec into finance. If you do it right how this is written right now, then we're right back what public safety has. We have nowhere to go. So what I'm trying to do is get us to kind of narrow things down so things can be brought back. Now, I would agree solar is the way to go. I think that's really our only option. The question is, there are solar that can be individual units that we have up right now. What I don't know is if we could attach more solar panels to the poles and then run to lights under there, so we don't have solar panels and poles in the right of way or attached to the actual boardwalk. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a good example of where we could have that bridge between the school district and the village, where we could have students running this project for us, doing all the calculations, figuring out the cost, installing everything, and all we would have to come in and do the cost of materials. There's definitely classes in our engineering department that would be able to do this stuff. And so I just don't know the proper way to go about it from here moving forward, but this would be a perfect example of one of those partnerships that we could have.
Do you want to check into that?
Yeah, Dave
I
Tom,
think if we give them some parameters.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get, because that's what the chief is asking and your committee was asking for, because otherwise we're chasing our tail.
There's a safety component, there's a chamber component, there's lots of components.
Absolutely. So, I know you're coming off the board, but can you at least get contact? And then we can make contact with that person and see what,
Say Dave Thomas.
Dave Thomas, yeah.
That's that email that is on there, like, all parts like Sunday.
oh, that's the sign guy?
Well,
I think he actually lives.
He's in charge of project learning.
it's actually project learning, and he gave me like who to contact. He said that like students will build benches, because we were talking, he said your benches were discontinued. I didn't put it together until I found his card, I'm like, this guy said they could make benches, and then I was like, maybe they can make signs, and I was like. So he's got coordinates, and he sent in the email, and I sent you that email, Jay, of who to contact for the metal, who to contact.
Right, but I didn't think someone who does benches and signs is also the person to do engineering for solar. I would think it's a different class.
He's like the point person.
It is, he's the point person for like apprenticeships and all the relationships with businesses, but also communities. I've done.
I believe the chamber did.
I believe he was
Chamber.
And Eric Wheeler, who is the engineering teacher, lives in Unix as well. I know he is.
And what's his name again?
Dave Thomas, Eric Wheeler, Quincy Miller, John would be the three guys I would contact immediately. And so I'll just throw mine out and I'll CC Brian.
Perfect.
And then
All right.
we can go from there.
Jay, I forwarded you that email.
Yeah.
Dave Thomas was who I contacted, was the first guy, and he included, I know the Quincy Miller John email in that address, and probably the other one, I sent that too also.
Yeah.
I think those two guys are who he listed, like these are the two other
Right.
guys.
Well, let's see what capabilities they have, because that would certainly be a good project for them, and that would at least give us. And,
And just to give you perspective, so like exiting this school year, they can literally design a class where that is what the class does for next semester. Like that is their job from start to finish, is we are going to install this lighting on this boardwalk, that's our semester. That would be pretty cool.
yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, if we could get something like that, so they would do it next year then, during the school year. No, that would be almost perfect timing, because it fits into the finance part of this, as you can see. Even from years ago, it's pretty expensive, and
And those quotes were really based off, it really depended on what light you went with at the time.
Sure.
How much light was, how many you needed, how many posts you needed, like Jay's talking about.
are these solar or were
They are
these?
solar.
These
yeah.
were all solar? Well, that's good to
The
know.
high number was actually for, the increase in the bollards inside on the blacktop path as well.
Oh,
Those were solar type bollards,
okay,
along with the 10-foot lights that we had shining down. 15-foot lights came under exactly. So,
well, that would be good. And then the finance side, I think there's huge opportunity for grant. We are building a major project in that area that basically, we can use some of that money as a match. We're putting in infrastructure, we're putting in restrooms and a parking lot. So if we put that all together for the parking lot, and then lighting, because part of our plan, right, the economic development plan is to build that infrastructure so we can use Xander Park more. Well, we need to get the people from the park to the parking lot to the bathrooms in a safe way. So the lighting fits right in with that. I think we could hit economic development for increasing tourism. I think we can do tourism for outdoor activities since it's in the park, but also straight tourism. And I think we should be able to even tap maybe the trail or the park system. Because the events that are gonna be at Xander, the bathrooms and the parking are all free. Right? So I think there's an opportunity. And the bathrooms and that parking lot have to, gonna definitely run us 500,000 to $750,000 probably when you put it all together. That even getting a $200,000 grant, that would only be basically 20%. So we'd match 80% for their 20%.
When do you believe that you'll have some actual estimates on that building?
Next year.
Cause that'll be important. We'll need some, at least for the recreational trail grants or any of those others, we'll need some specific type numbers.
Well, I think
For
we
kind or for.
I think we can kind of do it even this year. If you think about, we have to look at the bid of what the parking lot at Ace is gonna be. And then we can multiply that, right? And we're putting in what, 4 bathrooms at well 2 Bear Park?
Yeah.
So even if you just took half of that cost, that'll give us at least a ballpark for this time. Even though, that part will be built into the regular station, but I think it gives you some raw numbers. So I think we should be able to come up with pretty good numbers.
Yeah, that'll be important for the grant aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think if we try to get this stuff ahead of time so they can plan for it, we could get on their list of saying we want to fund this, and then we should have the cost by the fall of next year. If everything goes to our timeline. Because we would hopefully be bidding it out in early 2025. So I guess who wants to take the lead on the finance part of it? I mean, I could have finance pull the numbers. I'm thinking of the grants and stuff. You still have that guy's card, right? I think I still have it because this definitely fits under outdoor tourism.
I think the
With the-
thing for us to be to kind of, we can start on that discussion, but once we know more what the school day will provide, otherwise we will need.
Oh, yeah.
Metric planning and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff as well, so. But if they can provide that stuff for us, then I think we would know what lights we would go with and the actual cost to install, we can kind of base off all the work that we've currently done.
But I'm just trying to set up the mindset of, here's our match, this is what we need, for what reasons, because we've made it very clear with Village Hall and Police Station, that Xander Park, we wanna make that our central park, with lots of activities and bringing people in, so that's tourism. We're on the Ice Age Trail, we're putting a bathroom, a rest stop for them, so that's definitely the trail system, parks and stuff. I think we have a lot going for us. And with us investing as much as we are, I just think it's a no-brainer for somebody to fund us for the lights.
Sounds like we have someone that should be writing a grant. He's got all these ideas, it's the truth, yeah. What's that?
Sustainability committee?
Well, I think we have to sit, I mean, I think we can, like I say, finance can help with some of the dollar signs and stuff, can do
I think
that.
once we get in contact with the school and kind of figure out what they can provide and,
Yep.
Then, I'm happy to take the project, obviously, through the park, but more,
Yeah.
bringing finance for grants and.
Well, I think grants has to be done by staff.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Okay.
you guys, they need contacts, because we're gonna have to kind of skid the wheels like we're doing with Baldwin and, the feds that way. I mean, it takes a lot of back and forth, and a committee can't do that. You need a person.
Yeah.
And they came and met with us, the economic development, so I think this fits into what they were saying, under both tourism in general.
I think Brian and I can get it all started.
All right.
Passing the con back and forth, knowing what we're gonna need if you want.
So really no motion tonight.
So I don't think we need it, but let's just summarize. So Andy's gonna try to get us in contact with the school and let's just see what the school district can do. You'll kind of you two will kind of take a look at the different grants that might be potentially out there for us. I'll start trying to get somewhat of a number, come up with what we think would be a pretty close match that we're dedicating to, because the outside bathrooms in that extended parking lot is clearly just for our tourism. So we should be able to pull that out. Anybody else? What are people's thoughts on this?
I like it. I mean, it sounds great. If it can come to fruition, that'd be awesome for the community as a whole.
Yeah.
And you'd be more than welcome to my team with the transportation plan in the community too.
It's really gonna mess up our candlelight hike, but,
We can turn them off, right?
After solar.
But it's fine. We have to put a timer. And the thing is, I'm looking at probably, I mean, really, if you think about it, the park's closed at 10 o'clock. So really, you just need the power for basically 6 hours in the winter time, from 4 to 10 o'clock. After that, it should be closed. People can take their sidewalks, lit sidewalks, 60 yards on each side of the path right now. You have Urban Road that's well lit and Main Street. So, you know, it's when the parks are open that we need the lighting.
Boardwalk's actually kind of fun when it's dark.
What's that?
I think boardwalk's kind of fun when it's dark.
I ride that boardwalk on my bike at night all the time. I never have any issues seeing it all. I've never ridden off of it at all.
I think it's.
Well, that's fine.
I think it's more of
be
a-
in there, mister, after 10 o'clock. The park's closed at 10 and the sign is gonna tell you that.
I've heard about it with PSC.
What's that?
I've heard about it with PSC.
The masked biker.
Yeah.
The masked like.
All right, I think we have a plan there.
Oh, well, yeah, I put my face mask on, it's pretty.
You just admitted to it.
But I don't ride my way, but it's really freezing.
All right, let's go on to something a little bit warmer. Discussion and possible action, 2023 No Mow May initiative. Andy, you wanted this on? Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically the sustainability committee, discussed adding this, as last year, the first pilot year that we've ever attempted this. It was very successful in that we had 50+ residents, who either picked up a sign or noted in the data that was collected at the end of the process that they participated in No Mow May. Some of the conversations that we had at sustainability during the discussion of this was, the difficulty of remedying one's lawn after an entire month of not mowing, even from our most tried and true, saviors of the pollinators. So we did want to implement it again, or at least suspend the ordinance for May to make it an official opportunity for residents to partake in again. The question we had was whether or not we should call it No Mow May or Low Mow May, so that residents have the opportunity to not feel guilty about mowing during the month of May if they want to participate. My gut is just like, let's present it as No Mow May, let residents decide. Basically, the gist of it is, if you're over 6 inches, you're reaching a threshold that's going to be beneficial to the pollinators that are coming in May. We also wanted to specify in this particular ordinance, or temporary change the ordinance, some examples that the village would then participate in. So like Village Hall, and then the sections of Xander Park just along the creek bed, which is able to for trout fishing and B saves a little bit of money on the mowing end of things. And so we were looking for some more visible places that the village can say we also support this effort and participate with the sustainability committee recommendations.
I applaud your effort, but I will never not mow my lawn for an entire month.
Yes.
I mean, I love it. It's a great thing. I give all the credit to the people who did it, but I was watching one particular soul out there cussing himself through that. So I appreciate the effort for it. But I'll be
I did all that, but also I do like the idea of doing it at the park. I'm not sure I like doing it here at the village of hall, just because of, again, it doesn't look. I'm worried about the mowing and afterwards. I wonder how they feel about that as far as field.
Are you concerned about the aesthetic of Village Hall?
No. Because it's so beautiful. It's beautiful.
gorgeous.
I'm worried about like afterwards, like you said.
It's so much work.
Good. But otherwise, I can live with it. Yeah, so we can do it. Everyone, yes, I'm good.
I'm not, like I say, I'm all for the no mow, but what really helps the pollinators are, especially in May, are the dandelions, and the village does not use any herbicide, so even with us mowing, if you look at our parks and everything, they are just packed with dandelions. I'm not sure, along the creek, we already leave a buffer along the creek, and you know, if you walk it, there's already a buffer there.
Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I fish it all the time. Some of this buffer is probably 8 feet in some spots.
Didn't the library do it last year?
Yeah, library did. I think they probably did it around the creek though.
I feel like they were good.
Yeah,
What do you
Dave
say?
was out there for about a month.
Yeah. Oh, actually, maybe we should keep that, keep him busy.
Yeah, what was the question?
We leave the grass along the creek.
We leave about, with the more, so it's anywhere from 5 to 6 feet.
Yeah.
So speed.
Well, then maybe we should just be leaving that. Village Hall, not tranquilized. We're not talking about a lot of grass here, guys.
Right. I can live with it.
Village Hall, why not? I mean, it's just
I can live with it. if They're okay with doing it after the month.
I'm not showing up to mow it.
I did, it's 3 mows.
I don't know. I mean, I'm agreeing with you. This is not a great place to bring, but all we're doing is making it even look worse, I think. I mean, it's embarrassing to bring people here. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed every time we bring in people that we want like grant money and stuff, or businesses. Want to see our things. I mean, you know, the latest business that came in here, I'm thinking they're gonna be right next door to us. And I'm thinking, we already look junky,
Right.
you know, and now I'm not mowing our lawn. I'm sorry, I can't go any deeper in this hole.
But then you need the sign, because then the sign is like, oh,
Oh,
they look like it's because of they're choosing to support Mother Nature. And then there's a value added aesthetic that we have. Instead
We
of-
got a lot of dandelions. We're really helping the pollinator, and tons of weeds along the building, so.
Park has a lot of dandelions.
Yeah, they all do, because we don't use any,
Just on the bowl then.
yeah.
Let the ball divers grow.
Now, if there's,
What about supplying signs again for residents to pick up and all that good stuff?
I agree.
Yeah.
do we have some of those left over from last year?
Yeah, it was quite really quick back.
They're pretty cool. We even get them right this year.
I would argue say it was the same one, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and sustainability committee divided those, or, you know, you did all the work for that and then the air.
Hopefully do the
and
same.
graphics with them.
They should be able to use.
That's perfect.
Yeah, people probably.
Well, how many did you make last year?
I think it was, yeah, 50.
Is that what you're asking for, another 50?
Another 50,
Yeah, they weren't that expensive. I know that they did,
Didn't get a lot of
donations
donations.
for it, yeah.
We did or did not?
We did.
Just left out our donation.
Yeah.
And
Do you remember how many?
It didn't break even, but we.
Almost, it was like $30 off, I think, for breaking even from donations.
Yeah, it
It was pretty close.
Alright. So what I'm hearing is we're good with this, program again, with us providing 50 signs. I guess I haven't really heard from everybody else on leaving the village.
I mean, I would encourage the Village Hall at least to do it, if not, just even putting signs down right there.
How about the future
I was just
side
gonna say, well,
of
we
Village Hall?
Well, they gotta get to that pipe though.
Boy, they can drive over someone. We have to get to them. We can let that lot grow for May.
There are 2 signs in it.
Okay, see, that's perfect, that
Yeah.
handle that.
Village supports no mow May.
Yeah. The
There we
future
go.
sign of Village Hall.
Right, there we go. That kind of kills 2 birds. All right.
Yeah.
Is
That's
everybody,
huge.
Yeah.
everybody cool with all of this so far? Someone wanna write, or write,
Yeah,
state a motion?
so I move that we approve Nova May for the 2023 month of May, including 50 signs provided by Village Cross Plains, and those signs will be placed on the Xander Parkway, as well as the new site for the Village Hall and police station.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
When would you like the sign?
And we have ordered them all.
Yeah. Yeah, ASAP. I'll take care of all of it.
Thank you, Mike.
Nice.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So move. All right. Number 12. Okay, this is, again, we'll go quickly through the history. Finance came up with this. We did a lot of research, decided to buy a vacuum, a leaf vacuum. We had 2 pilot programs. Both were very successful. The one for the neighborhood was done this last fall, very positive. Jerry, Brian and I met. We believe we can do it village-wide in 2023. If you go down to the recommendation and implementation, it would start in October and in when the first snow flies. So we're looking at approximately 6 weeks. Every resident would have the opportunity to have their leaves picked up 3 times during that period. So it'd be every other week. Some modifications that we would need to do is we would only do 1 brush pickup for October and November, so staff has ample time. So we'd have, we want to get that out ahead of time. And then it would return to its normal 2 times a month. The other thing, we would obviously keep the drop-off site for people who want to drop off. The other thing is we found in the study that we were spending a lot of travel time to and from the compost site. So what is in here at the front up in that one is that we sold a vehicle. We ended up getting more than we expected from auction, and we'd like to redirect 11,300 of that to buy a second box. We have a truck to fit on that way. They could, while the one truck is going to drop off, they could be filling the second. These trucks, it wouldn't be just for leaf pickup, it's also what they use for brush pickup and for moving snow, so there'd probably be an advantage in all of that. So that would be the conditions that we could provide this service to the village. Are there questions?
So it's just the box that they're buying?
Yeah, just
not
now.
one of the machines.
We have 1 box, we buy a second box, So one truck would leave, the other one would hook up and they would be able to do that with snow, and I don't know if they ever need it for brush or not.
There are times,
There would be time?
especially if we have a storm.
Oh, sure.
I'm all for it. I loved it.
Anybody else?
Make a motion to accept as presented to purchase another leaf collection box.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Are we approving the leaf thing or the purchase of?
Right now, we're doing the box and then we'll do the leaf pickup after.
We need the box.
Right, yeah, so that's why we're doing the order. All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, same. All right, now can I have a motion to implement a village-wide curbside leaf pickup?
I'll make a motion to, approve the village-wide leave.
And a motion and a second, any discussion?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Michael.
Jerry, if you take off like those weeks there in October, you don't do the brush pickup, does that like mean that November one's gonna be a ton of branches you're doing probably? You're thinking?
No, we're just reducing each month by 1 day. It's not like we're not gonna do October at all.
We're gonna do the first Tuesday of October. And the fourth Tuesday of November. Yeah. Okay, so it's like, yeah, it's like a whole, it's like 6 weeks between though.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's gonna be such a.
I see.
People are gonna have like tons of brush out there possibly, I mean, I don't know, you know?
So from the middle of October to the end of November, you think there's gonna be a ton?
Well, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
well, I mean, if it's.
I'm not sure why. That seems a little late for, you know, with the holidays and deer hunting.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
Maybe some more dead in them.
Yeah.
Does the village or public works plan on telling people how they want the leaves piled? Because like when I did it last year, I was part of the pilot program. And so I just swept them as close to the curb as I could, like the whole length of the curb instead of having a giant pile. Like, is there a preference how you want them and can that be told to the residents?
We're gonna,
Or full width of the lot, it doesn't really matter, what really matters is the car. Take your garbage.
yeah, we're gonna, just like we did in your neighborhood, you know, we leaflet. And we're gonna have to do a huge PR thing. Absolutely. I'm not sure, I guess we haven't addressed that yet. That's something we gotta talk about. But we're gonna have to do something. Right.
Because
To,
I saw people that had piled them in the street
yeah, I know,
versus the
yeah,
yard.
yeah.
I just want to make sure the residents are informed of it, because I loved it, I thought it was going away, so this makes me so happy.
No, this is good, but the one thing we did push real hard is we gotta get, you can't park a car in front of your leaf pile. Makes it hard for them to pick it up. But we were gonna have to do a PR, so. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say, all right. 13. All right. Discussion of possible action. Resolution establishing a modified and detailed wage and benefits plan for the village employees. All right, I just have, who wrote this? Okay, why do we have state of Wisconsin, Dane County, village? Why is that all on? I haven't seen that before. Is there a reason?
I think we just took one that had been written and just copy over. That doesn't have to be on it.
Well, I was just curious, because I wasn't really, I have not personally seen that, so I'm wondering why the state of Wisconsin, unless you're giving the address or something. Okay,
No,
I think
right,
it's
so
similar.
that's what we picked
Yeah, I think it was
together.
a template in a different municipality that had recently done a similar.
It's just telling you where it's possibly
Correct.
located.
Correct.
okay. Okay, the only question I have.
We're just drilling down.
Is the wording that you have regionally competitive. What is your definition of regionally? What do we? Being
I would
competitive?
read that within Dane County, right?
Okay, I don't think it's possible that we can match Madison's
Well,
salaries, or Fitchburg, or Middleton.
a small village outside of. Bangor.
Well, I just wanna make sure we,
I don't think we're looking to match those, I think we just need to realize that that's our competitive.
okay,
We need to be competitive and
Yeah, I don't see
get
this.
close.
I wouldn't wanna get too. Okay, it's gonna depend on the position and stuff, I wanna get too specific on regionally competitive, I mean, like, we wanna hire people. And
well, I know we do, but usually most of, regionally, I just wanna know what that definition is, what we're defining. Is it the Midwest? Is it the state?
Southern Wisconsin.
So, yeah. I mean, what is region? I mean, almost everybody who uses that, there's a defined area that we're talking about region. Jerry?
In my mind, you draw north-south line through Dane County, you have the center point. It would be the western half of Dane County.
Okay.
I guess I just don't agree that we have to be super specific on that.
like, for like a lifeguard, right?
Well-
Regionally would be like Middleton, Cross Plains, but it's.
Yes, to the mission statement and to the resolution is the employees that we're losing are going to the Fitchburgs, the Veronas, the Middletons, the Wanakees. And, you know, they don't have to physically move to take a job there. It's the kind of the commuter region where it's an easy commute. And by the same token, we stole one from Black Earth. On the flip side.
No, I understand how it's played, but I guess there's a reason, for example, there's a reason why our chief is paid not as much as the Middleton chief or the Wanakee chief, right? You gotta take in perspective, not just the position, but also the responsibility and the size of the community.
Yeah, and it's gonna be regionally competitive based on the fact that we don't have 10,000 people like this. We don't have some of the, every job has got its own quirks and peculiarities. So, in each community does. So, we'll have specifics for Cross Plains, but yet, let's take a PF labor. Say we're paying $20 an hour. For a good example, Verona, they pay about $5 an hour more than we do to start, so they would start at 25. Well, we don't necessarily have to pay 25, but 23.50 might keep somebody here. And that's my pitch.
And my only thing, and where I differ from you, Andy, is this is something that we're saying we're gonna do for our employees. So we should be upfront with them on what we really can do for them. So if this is regional and everybody's thinking Dane County, and they bring in all these numbers from these bigger jurisdictions, and then they say, hey, you said you were gonna do regional. I just don't think that's a fair way of doing it. I wanna be upfront and fair, and one of the things is, we are a village of 4,100 people.
Sure.
I can't compete against Verona, who gets hundreds of thousands of dollars from Epic every time they add something there. You know, they have, I don't know how many people now, but it's growing like crazy over there. You know, we gotta be fair. I mean, you can't just do, in my opinion, you can't just do this feel-good thing. Yeah, we're gonna give our employees regional competitive. Well, can we really afford it?
Regional competitive also very clearly implies that we're not saying we're gonna be comparing and trying to provide something that we can't. That we're going to be looking at municipalities that are similar in size to us. Regionally, right? We're not comparing Verona and Cross Plains in that statement. We're saying-
Actually, I think you should compare Verona and Pittsburgh. You have the same responsibilities. You may not have the same volume of people.
Mhm.
And the big difference is Cross Plains needs 5 public works people and $23.50 an hour. Verona, Fitchburg needs 15. That's the difference between the two communities in my mind, is the number of employees, the overall total employee cost.
Oh, yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Right. But
The cost of living between Verona and Class Point is not different. Yeah.
And the CDL, yada, yada,
Yeah.
is just as valuable on an hourly basis as the guy that does it in Verona. The difference is Verona has 15 versus 5.
Yeah.
But they also have a much larger tax base.
And they need that for those extra 10 employees.
Exactly.
Well, not, well, you
We should be, yes, we should be paying comparatively to student Verona
Yeah.
and Madison. Yeah.
And
Yes.
we have, not maybe exactly, but like, we can't, like, we can't say, look. You know, I'll take the flip side of what you were just saying. We can't, you know, you were talking about wanting to protect the employees by not saying regionally competitive, because then they might expect equal payment to like the likes of Madison or whatever. Like, the flip side of that is terrible, like, sorry, you're here. And, you know, even to Jerry's point, like, you're doing the same exact thing as something else in the other community, but we can't pay you that amount. Like, you know, tough luck, kid, I mean.
It's not tough luck. It's what the ability to pay, just like Middleton teachers are getting paid a lot more than Wisconsin Heights teachers, okay?
Actually, I don't think we are.
Yeah, they are. They are.
I think we are.
Yeah, okay, and River Valley, all right, I have friends in River Valley, I know the difference there. Okay, but what you have to look at is the ability to pay. Just like a small computer company that's mom and pop can't pay what Best Buy can pay. All right, it's a scale, and if you look at the value of Verona compared to the value of Cross Plains, it's off the charts on their ability to pay. So I'm not saying they're not worth it. What we have to do, just like homes and everything else, it's the ability to pay.
Right, so the difference between the mom and pop computer shop and Best Buy is, you know, possibly quality, right? Because if you're getting the higher pay, right, you're the more, you know, you're the better employer, or whatever. Like, why wouldn't you go leave to go get that job at Best Buy if you could? If you're working at the mom and pop computer shop and then you go to Best Buy, like, because you could get a higher rate there, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's the problem we're running.
I understand what the problem is, yeah.
But by not paying, you know, as competitively as our neighbors, then we're never going to retain any staff or get the staff.
All right, Doug, then.
There's a whole industry called human resources that talks about retention, and these are salary ranges. We have to be competitive within our salary ranges. I personally think that Cross Plains is a great place to work. You have advantages and you have reasons that you go to work for the company you work with. Everybody has an opportunity to go to a bigger city or go to a different company to do their range of work. And it fits within ranges. We want to be regionally competitive. We want to be competitive. I don't think that us raising our wages to the top and being higher than Madison or Middleton is going to solve our issues. It's going to create higher taxes. It's going to create a lot more issues. Wages is one part of the job. I personally think they have to be competitive. And we've taken a couple raises recently to make them more competitive. You don't just flip a switch on 8% inflation. Things are tough and things are different for everybody. That includes our taxpayers. There has to be a balancing act. I personally think Cross Plains could be a destination job because there's beautiful scenery, there are great people here. There's ways that people build and stay, and our department heads, I think, are adequately compensated at this time. I think in the past, our laborers have been as well. The jobs have values, they have ranges, and that's the beauty of being a part of the municipal sector, is a lot of those ranges are very easy to get a hold of. So companies have decisions to make around compensation. Sometimes people like a company that maybe you don't make as much, but you have more flexibility. I personally make about 25% less than I did when I was at Swing Window Tractors. Big company, a lot of pressure, I travel a lot for work, I make less, I work for a smaller company, I have more quality of life. So it's all a balancing act. It used to be in the old days, public sector employees made less and had a lot greater benefits. Some of that stuff has been chipped away by different reasons, you know, that our state government has made. But it's a balancing act, and it's total compensation. It's wages, it's benefits, it's quality of work, it's quality of life. So it's kind of like selling. You know, a lot of good salespeople that I train, they complain if our prices are too high. Oh, no, we can't be competitive. We got to cut our prices. Well, if you have to cut your prices to sell, then you can't pay people as much, right? So there's a whole balancing act in the way compensation is figured out. And I'm very appreciative that Jerry and the village staff is looking at it holistically, because they're the ones whose job descriptions, whose jobs are on the line, and that's not necessarily on the line, but just they're engaged in it. They're taking ownership of this process. And it's a big deal. And the other part of working in a public sphere is people know your wages, they know your wages. You have to come to a lot of meetings at night. There's give and take. There's a lot of balancing act. But like, to me, when I'm training people in sales, the weaker salespeople a lot of times complain a ton about we gotta cut the price, we're too expensive, we're too expensive. Well, if you're the cheapest one, sometimes you don't stick around this long. You know, and I'm just using that as an example. I don't always think that just ratcheting up the pay makes it a better place to work. There's all kinds of things that play into that. I personally think them being engaged in this process is showing the Cross Plains community that values them. We want their input, and let's see what they come up with.
All right, myself and then Andy. And retention, Cameron, I think you need to look at how long our employees have been working in Cross Plains. You're gonna find that we have very loyal employees that have been here for a long. Well,
The existing employees that started 15 or more years ago, I agree. The new hires to fill in where people have retired, I can't keep them.
okay, maybe your spots, but let's look at the police department. They got 3 new officers, they've all stuck around.
How long?
So far.
Well, so, but you guys are, I keep hearing this where it's like, we're losing staff constantly. I understand, but if we took the 25 employees and looked at how many years they've been working for the village, I think you'll find maybe 3 or 4 that are under 2 years.
I got 3 myself.
You have 3 that are under 2 years?
Oh, no, I only have 2 left. One of them already quit.
Okay. Well, it's something we have to work on, there's no doubt. I just think you need to look at the big thing, and I don't wanna make promises we can't fulfill. We were $80,000 away from the cap. You know, that's a no, can't go over that, right? Now, I'm hoping with the state, because both the Republicans and the governor says that they're gonna increase that for us. So I'm hoping that happens. So I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page. I'm fine with the language it is. I just wanted to hear from everybody on how they interpret that. That's the thing. And when they get their work done, we'll have plenty of time to discuss this and look at it from 360, not from 90 degrees.
The only thing I was gonna add is that, along with Doug's comments about, the destination and, you know, great place to live and work, is that, you know, an alternative to the salary would be benefits, you know, more time off or recreation in the community that they live in. And I know in the past, or maybe still currently, we have been incentive for people who work for the village, live in the village to get, pay raises. And I think encouraging that, and then providing extra vacation time off or other benefits would be just as much appreciated as cash in pocket.
All right, do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same, so moved. All right, discussion and possible action, transportation, utility / wheel tax. Bobby, you taking this?
Absolutely. So this is just another one of the, things that we were tasked with, trying to come up with new ways to bring in some extra revenues. So the finance committee looked at transportation utilities. So what that's saying is that a transportation system should be treated as a public utility, such as like water, sewer, electricity. Sorry, Brian. And then there is a user-based fee, is intended to supplement other revenue sources to pay for the transportation system. The next slide just defines the transportation system, as all the costs used to maintain streets, curbs, gutters, streetlights, snow plowing, all that stuff. So transportation systems can be funded through all these different measures. Currently we do receive the state aid. We pay for some of the tax levy. Special assessments, we've implemented the new sidewalk policy. We do borrowing for big street projects. We also learned about the wheel tax last year. And then tonight we're talking about the transportation utilities. That's just a rundown of all the different options. Just to recap on what we learned about wheel tax. We all live in Dayton County, so we know that Dayton County has a wheel tax on top of, or, when you register your vehicle, it's like $28. So this is just something we could implement as a municipality to add on to that. I thought it was interesting that in 2011, there were only 4 of these in the state, and as of last year, there were 44, so I think it's becoming a very popular measure to bring in extra revenue, because it's very easy to implement. It's just the DOT collects the fee for us and then just sends us a check every time someone in the village registers a vehicle. It's not all vehicles, though. I think it's like heavy trucks. So again, it's a user-based fee on the concept that every improved property benefits from roads. It's usually broke down into 2 separate parts. There's a base fee that's kind of calculated based on your street frontage. Because it's saying, if you have a bigger chunk of street and that's where to maintain that. And then the consumption fee is based on like trips. It's called. It's like you generally hire a consultant to come up with your rates. So they look at your bigger residence versus the business. Yep, so the next one talks about the rates. So you kind of back into your rates. Say our total transportation system costs are $500,000, and we know we get $250 from state aid, and we want to say we want to get $150 from our utility. So then we would hire consultants, and they would figure out how much we'd have to charge in order to get that $150,000 of revenue a year. The example here is the city of Wisconsin Rapids. They said theirs up to generate $500,000 of revenue a year. So what is that, $1 something for a house per month?
Like 32.
Yeah.
Down 59.
Or 59, yeah, single family. Yeah.
So it all depends, on what our mix of businesses and multifamily to residents, how much we want this to generate. So is a more complicated system to set up, but I think once it's set up, it's able to run. It'd just be added to like your monthly water bill and just get an extra charge.
So it's not when we pay your license?
No, the wheel tax is tied to your registration. This is the utility, so it'd be like our sewer and water, so it'd be that would be one way of just tacking it onto the sewer and
Yeah,
water.
it's a completely separate.
Yeah.
Do we know how many municipalities in Dayton County have this?
This is very rare, actually, in the state of Wisconsin. because it's kind of controversial, there's nothing in the state statute that says you can set one of these up, but there's nothing that says you can't. It's kind of like the stormwater utilities, where municipalities are finding loopholes to kind of set it up. It's a little controversial, but yeah, there's not a whole lot. When I called the DOT or the DOR, I talked to both of them. And the person I talked to hadn't even heard of this. And I'm like, I know there's at least a handful in the state. I think in other states they're more common, it's just they haven't really made their way to Wisconsin yet.
Cause our roads are so wonderful.
Our state needs to fix the way they come. And
Where have I
if
seen?
we do something like this, I mean, to me, I don't mind paying my fair share of taxes. I pay it. $180 here and I pay $180 less on my property out.
Yeah, it's essentially, you're paying for the same thing as
Right.
Bill Pocket doesn't come.
Right, and that's what,
Property tax or the fee.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the difference here is that you're actually taking some money out of people's pockets that don't pay right now.
You're using them. If you use the roads, you pay them.
Right, but, and there's no exempt, so,
Sure.
you know, there's schools and churches would have to pay in, so technically. You've been subsidizing them, right? So this way, technically, it should be less for you because we're bringing in people who have not been paying.
Churches are gonna be political, we should pay them all months.
Well, but right now, that's not allowed, right? So,
That's stuff I think, I mean.
yeah,
again,
but this is what gets around that. This remains, everybody that is on a road have to pay something for road construction.
But I guess clarifying question, it doesn't though, right? I mean, like I watch large semis and stuff, you know, cross right through Main Street. I watch farm equipment go right down Church Street. Like those people are outside of cross lanes or just crossing through cross lanes. You know, potentially doing, you know, heavier vehicles on roads can cause more
That's
damage
why
or
they
whatever.
have to use tax.
I was saying, but we're not collecting any money from them.
We also wanna like engage with the rest of the world and trade with them, whatnot.
No, I'm not saying we should put a toll bridge at those places. That would be insane. I'm just like, you know, I just something else that I was thinking about when I was reading through this, is some residents' reactions might be like, but.
Those commercial
now
vehicles.
I'm, you know, having additional subsidy for those. I mean, we have to pay for it.
Well,
But
this is not, I don't see it as a subsidy, we're paying no matter what. What the question is, do we try to get everybody to pay into the system, right? And the other advantage is that this doesn't go against the levy limit.
Yeah.
So you would be bringing this in, so right now, you know, let's say the 250,000 that we use for street maintenance, let's just use that number. If we did the utility, that would not go against the levy limit, we would have that extra 250,000 for something else. Or not raise taxes, right? That's an advantage too, so it's not like this is where it has, to me, it has two big benefits. One, it makes everybody pay. So that to me seems fair, more fair, I don't, you know, and then secondly, it takes some of the levy limit, squeeze off it. But
My question is, if something like this were to be implemented, could we make it known to the village that we're gonna do this wheel tax but we're gonna put it towards resurfacing some of the roads within the village, because there's some that are pretty rough. And if it's gonna cost me $22 a year more, whatever it is, I'm fine with it, as long as like we're responsible and let the earmark it, like this is going to go towards curbs, gutters, and roadways.
you could easily, actually, that would be a wise thing to do. You could do that, yeah, you build that into it, that this utility, this is what it's gonna pay for. And then you decide how much you wanna spend, and then you divide it out between everybody. With that, it seemed like from finance, they were more into the formula, because that gets it to be very, very fair versus street frontage, which is a simpler way.
Well, what kind of cost would be involved in hiring a consultant to do that? Because I was like, okay, we wanna make $125,000, well, the first year it's gonna cost us $65,000 for a consultant, like. is there-
We didn't dig that deep. We'd probably we have the names of the company that did the work with these other municipalities, so we could give them a call and get an idea, but
Like, would we have to hire a consultant or? is
If-
that-
I think it's pretty complicated.
if you wanna go with the more fair one on usage versus linear foot of roadway. Cameron?
I mean, I think Doug is absolutely right. In like, you know, it doesn't matter, it's gotta be paid for somehow, which pocket is it coming out of, and also that, yes, there's like the state, you know, should offer more stuff with this regard. But like perception wise, don't know the answer to this, like. People hate how expensive our property taxes are, and if those go up, you'll tick people off. People also hate how expensive our water is and our sewage bill, and by tacking another line item onto that, people are gonna hate that, and I guess right now, I'm kind of think people are gonna hate the second one more, because it's gonna feel more like a nickel and dime, but, it's, again, we gotta pay for it, I understand that, but we should think carefully about the perception of which one is better.
Judy?
And my only comment to that is, my friends that own rental property here, so the renters pay the water bill, but they pay their property taxes, probably in a roundabout way through rent, but that's different, because the owner pays the property taxes, so if he's crabby, at least the renters don't have to pay property taxes per se. I mean, they do rent, but then they pay the water bill, so I think it's easier to do the water bill. I mean, everybody gets crabby no matter what, you're right, but I feel like then you're getting more.
That's where I feel like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well,
And then Cody.
I was gonna agree with you, I think is like I think we could do this with property taxes as well, if we got to that limit, I'm not saying it'll happen this year, next year, or whatever, but like. Look, I mean, look what the school just did with a referendum, right, you know, they bundled it all up and like, look at the stuff you're gonna get. I mean, we're gonna have to do that no matter how we slice it, right, we can do this, but, well, we can do tough, and then we can, you know, Cody, you know, bundle it up like you agreed that like, oh, look, we're gonna resurface these roads, and like, that's what you're getting with this. But if property tax, if we hit that 80,000 more, right, you know, like communicating at least clearly what you get with that, which could be road resurfacing, it could be a new village hall, it could be a lot of things. I don't know, either way, you're gonna have to sell something. Which other option you go with?
That's kind of. I mean, it sucks, we're gonna have to pay more, I mean. People in the village want the finer things in life, like. I'm not a big fan of my property taxes, but I think that the village as a whole makes up for it, like. I don't wanna go anywhere else. If you're gonna charge me $22 a year for my car to make sure that the roads that are trying to blow my tires out are fixed, I'm cool with that. Like,
Yeah.
I just feel like if you responsibly tell the taxpayers, this is why we're doing it, this, like, we see there's a deficiency, we're trying to correct it without raising your property taxes. Like, as long as you're responsible and straightforward and forthcoming with it, I don't know why anyone can hate it.
No, and, me and then Judy, and that's what I like too, this is funds dedicated for a purpose. Property taxes goes into this big bundle, right? And then it goes, they know, just like sewer and water, what it goes for. And that's the one part that I like is, this is dedicated just for roads. You can't use it for anything else but roads. And the advantage is, people who are not paying property taxes are going to be paying for some of this cost. Which I think there's a fairness part of it.
Yeah, this is kind of, I mean, from looking at it and analyzing it, it's very similar to the phenomenon of the public fire protection charges on municipalities and the way it's added to water bills versus handled through property taxes. So it pulls in every water payer, in this case, taxed properties will be essentially paying something towards something that they'd otherwise be not getting and getting the public service good.
I like that idea, I mean, I like how they have to pay also. I just think it is for the wheel tax goes, a lot of people that, you know, when you have your car, so you pay it. It's the seniors who don't have usually as much money or live off social security, they might not have a car, so that saves, I mean, they don't have to pay that if you do it as a senior.
Yeah, the wheel tax to me doesn't generate enough to really cause the problem that it will cause. I think it's a regressive tax. And again, it only taxes people with smaller truck and a regular car. It doesn't hit the big trucks and a lot of the other vehicles out there. So I'm more inclined, if we do anything, to go with a transportation utility. I just think that's, because some people with those hybrids and electric cars are paying like $250 with their registration. Yeah, add another $20 to that. But I
They
understand.
got $5,000 off when they bought it though, Jay.
Yeah, I know, I'm just looking at response, which is easy to defend. Senior that's on fixed income, you know, is different, but I think the roads provide value, there's no doubt. So should we look into this a little deeper? I mean, we could do that if there is. I don't wanna waste our time if there's really not a lot of interest in
Well, it'd
it.
be interesting to know what the consultant would cost, like you say, and that kind of stuff, I don't know.
I think it's worth your due diligence. I mean,
Okay.
I'd also be curious if there's ever been a case where you provide an incentive for people who don't have an automobile.
Oh, wow.
Actually, reading that in one of the packets on the finance committee, there was mention of that people who don't have first do get money back. In one of the
Yeah.
videos that I watched.
Yeah, you can adjust these things, you know. You're making your own utility. That's basically what you're doing. So you set the rule.
Yeah, I don't know how you would crossplay is about. Working.
get a four-wheeler.
You guys working for like a company trying to sell people?
Green.
All right, so, we won't need any action, but we'll bring us back to finance and we'll see if we can get some idea of what consultant would be, and maybe we can, pull out a little bit more information from Wisconsin Rapids. I can't remember, what was the other community that had it?
Nina?
Was it Nina? We can.
Transportation utility.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Move on. To discussion and possible action, village ordinance 2.06.
This is very much the same thing that came before the board last time. We were sort of hemming and hawing over some of the language. We didn't want to hamstring the village board with having to address too many things or not have the opportunity to address issues that were of urgency. So the language that was changed from last is highlighted in green, which is essentially eliminating the line the village president shall have the authority to refer the item to committee, commission, or future board meeting. And essentially saying that one board member requested an item in writing to be added separate from future agenda items, shall have that item added to the board agenda by the president at the meeting of which the agenda is being requested. This request must be made within at least 10 days before the meeting for which the agenda item is being requested. The village board of trustees and village president will have the collective authority to refer items to commissions and committees in accordance with state statute, meaning essentially that Lisa has to come before the committee of the whole before it is pushed aside or put towards a particular committee. Additionally, what I think this language still leaves in effect, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, on this one, is technically, Jay, you could put an item that falls through 206 into the consent agenda or being assigned to a committee, right? And then we could instead pull it off of the consent agenda or have a discussion about it. Is that more or less the correct
Yeah,
interpretation?
you could do that.
So it still does enable some very quick decision making on whether or not we should be discussing an item or not that's requested by a village trustee. But it definitely makes sure that that item is in public and has the ability to be discussed by the board.
My only concern is the exact same one from last time. You have it where it's being requested, if it doesn't meet the state statute for the noticing, it just can't be done. Like tonight, if you would have given me even 10 days before that you wanted to do the CDA and we needed a public hearing, you need 14 days notice. So I couldn't do that.
So doesn't the line right there in accordance with state statute have any of that?
Well, no, the accordance, that one is to, yeah, that one's, there is no state statute of referring to a commission or a committee. That's not what I'm saying. It's the agenda part that I have a concern with. You can't tell, it can be written in here, it just won't be followed. You can't say, Jay, I want this item on Monday's agenda and it's 10 days before, and I say, well, you can't do that because we need to notice it 14 days ahead of time. Just like tonight's meeting, we noticed the public hearing 14 days before this meeting, so it would meet state statute. So that's the only part. I don't care about anything else. I just, again, we can leave it in here. It's just that it's not gonna happen. All right, I'm not gonna put something on the agenda that against state statute. So,
Nor does this ask you to do that.
well, it's saying on here that you tell me which agenda what meeting you wanted it to be on the agenda. That's how I'm reading it.
So the last line,
Requested.
maybe I'm incorrect here. The village board of trustees and village president will have the collective authority to refer items to commissions and committees in accordance with state statute, meaning that.
I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the one ahead of it.
Right,
So
so,
this request must be made within these 10 days before the meeting for which the agenda item is being requested.
yes, and if we're in violation of state statute, that obviously supersedes anything in 206 ordinance.
Could you put it underneath there unless the 14-day notice is required?
Right, like we could amend it to say for the agenda item is
Whatever.
requested unless a 14-day notice is required according to state statute.
Sure, that would work.
Could you just make the request within 14 days, 15 days?
Well, I mean, very few things.
Well, sometimes we have to hit the paper. So you gotta time it on, what is it, by Wednesday you gotta have them in?
Or
Yeah, it's gotta really be the week before because it's gotta run that prior Friday for the following week's paper, so.
So it needs 21 days?
Then probably closer to that, yeah,
Yeah.
realistically.
My one thing is, I don't know how many times, like, if something came to me 11 days ago, like, hey, can I get this on the agenda? Is it really gonna be something that needs public notice?
Oh, no, not everything. There are certain public hearings have to be, and there's a few others, like when we did the raise. You needed to notice that 14 days. There's a number, I don't know, I think just about anything that needs 3/4 of a vote, there's a number of things. But like, conditional use permits have to be, I think, noticed 14 days. I don't have it memorized.
I got you.
Okay, so when they come up, we would have to look at that and decide what state statute says. All I'm saying is, that is just one of the things I want to be very clear with, that people understand that you can write this, but there are times I just not gonna be able to. Any president, not just me, anybody.
Yeah, so I would just say, like, I would move to approve the changes to ordinance 206 with an amendment, in the line that says one board member requesting an item in writing to be added separate from future agenda items shall have item added to the board agenda by the president at the meeting for which the agenda item is being requested unless otherwise required by state standards or state statute. And then everything else.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second, any discussion? Cameron?
I guess I'm still confused exactly what we're trying to address. Like, I actually talked about it last time, but we weren't, I don't think all in agreement that there was a problem to fix, but go ahead.
Sure, the gist of it is that if a board member would like to have something added to the agenda after this meeting. Meeting's over tonight, tomorrow we decide, I decide, you decide, something needs to get on the agenda. The way that the current ordinance is written is it provides the village president with complete carte blanche as to whether or not that's ever gonna hit an agenda for the board. So the idea that you wanna talk about something, your neighbors, your community, you, whatever, could just remain in limbo in these obscure committees being discussed without any recognition at a public forum that that's a topic that's actually being discussed.
And that's totally false, Andy. What you're trying to change is the one sentence that you crossed out. That's the only one that the president shall not have the authority to refer an item to a committee, commission, or a future board meeting. That's what you're eliminating. It has nothing to do with me bearing anything, because that's not how it's worded in the ordinance. It gets on. This ordinance does allows Brian and I to manage the agenda. Tonight, we didn't do any managing. We just let everything go on the agenda. And I'm fine with that as long as people know that we'll be going past 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. That's fine. I don't have a problem, but I'm not gonna sit there and make it sound like I bury items and they are thrown off into yaya land. That's untrue. In the 4 years I've been here, no one has requested anything that has not eventually been on the board, but I manage it.
Offensive about that.
Because you're making it sound, when he asks you the question is why you're doing this, is because the president can bury something and put it into this forever and ever, which is not true.
Well, I mean,
that's not what the ordinance says.
Legally, it is true, Jay. And this is what happened was, I discovered this ordinance because you utilized it to stop something to get on the agenda, and having read the ordinance, I was like, democratically speaking, from a government transparency perspective, I don't like the language of this ordinance.
And I respect that. But you're
It's not
making
to say-
accusations
No.
that,
No, I'm not. I'm saying I discovered this ordinance and I thought this is something that we should not have in action in a democracy, and that's why I wanted to fix it.
and that's fine. You take out that sentence there. I have no problem not being able to refer things to committees. None whatsoever.
It also secondarily, Cameron, to answer the other part of it here is that, potentially having the discussion about where an item should go would expedite the process of things getting accomplished. It doesn't belong to sustainability first, should it go to finance first? Are questions more pertaining to how much it's gonna cost, or whether or not we have the proper information to make a decision whether solar is the way to go versus something else? So that was another reason for that 6 heads are better than 2 in this example.
Any other? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say so moved. Discussion, village wage and benefits. This is just so everybody understands. When we talk about wages and we talk about benefits, what the definitions and what we're really talking about. Go ahead, Bobby.
So I feel that wages versus benefits is pretty straightforward. Wages is just the money that we pay you either hourly, annual salary, or overtime. Your benefits are your non-wage compensation. So the village pays towards your health insurance premium, what they put into your pension, they're paying Social Security, Medicare. I guess dental, life, they have some for you. So I just kind of put in our budget numbers. Benefits add about 30% onto wages. And then when I did the calculations, that's what it seems to add in general, is about 30%. Next slide. And I think I just used myself as an example, for 2023 budget. Salary, $77,459. I put numbers in for what my benefits are. So my total compensation is the 108,542. Again, the benefits were right around that 30% added on to my salary.
And we consider like vacation or sick, that all goes under the salary for the.
Yes.
Right, not the benefits.
And I'll just make a comment, Paula's work does this every year, we have an annual summary, it includes what the wages were, all the benefits are, all, and I think it's very telling. Yeah, it's more than just your wage, so I like.
I was just gonna ask, does the village do that? Cause like, school, district, I think it's every January. We get like a total compensation sheet that shows this breakdown. Like, is that something where you could show something like that to like an employee, like in the event you were to come here and you're making $21.50 an hour? These are also the benefits that you're not necessarily like, as kind of a, like, not, I don't wanna call it a mistake, but just like informational. I've told the people at the school district this before, like, if you showed me like, hey, we're thinking you're gonna make $50,000 this year, but between what we give, what we pay for your WRS, your health insurance, your dental, your eye, like, that's a substantial number that I get. Like, if you can show that for recruiting purposes, or when they come in for the interview, like, I understand you could make $1.50 an hour more here, but this is what we offer. When you can see that on paper, it's kind of like a wow factor. I think it'd be great. I see a job interview.
Yeah, so we don't do anything in the front end for them, we let them know what the benefits are, but we don't put a number to them. And then we currently don't do like an annual summary for employees, but on each paycheck stub, it says how much we put into WRS, and how much, the health insurance we paid for that pay period.
Okay.
Social Security, Medicare, so if there is a little spot on the bottom that shows, just I think those 4 categories, how much the village is putting in.
And that shows like a year-to-date amount too.
And believe so, but I do think that's a great idea.
We do it. The bank does it, and they actually do, if you have a loan, it'll
Oh.
tell you what you're even paid in interest or what you paid on whatever. So we like it, we do it, we just like this, and it's very helpful. Cause you're right, when people complain and say, I only made this a year, but I'm like, but you also made 30% more. I mean, we cover 30% more or whatever it is. It's actually eye-opening, it's very eye-opening, yes, yeah.
Cameron?
It's a totally different market, but just anecdotally, my company had a very large bonus. So salaries were a little lower, but then you were getting like a 20% bonus. And we actually just in 2023 stopped doing that because we were having problems recruiting and hiring because people weren't, even no matter how explicit we were about it, it was, they weren't fully getting that or dropping it, or, they were like, well, it doesn't really matter. Your offer is, I'm looking at the base salary, and their offer is, I'm looking at the base salary, and it caused some confusion. So we actually adjusted things where we substantially lowered the bonus and kind of built it into people's base salaries. So just,
And that's what we did here.
it doesn't always work.
No, but that's exactly what we did. We took the merit pay and incorporated.
We also, and I know this word was used way too much 2 years ago and a year ago, but like literally this job market's unprecedented. Coming out of COVID and, inflation, I do think eventually some things will settle down and we have to make good decisions for long-term stability of our village and our valued employees. So, it's a challenging time, and I think it might be worthy of us to let Diane Hasselbaum, Dave Constein, I'm planning to go to a couple budget hearings to share some of my disapproval of how the state is running things. I think we can do more of that. I think they need to hear that the tools they're leaving with out there are kind of ridiculous. There's a lot of challenges.
Great. All right, we go back to, we pulled off number 11, which was the appointment. Cameron?
I was just, I guess I don't fully understand, exactly everything that the CDA will be responsible for. But from what I can understand, from our discussions and from the readings and stuff, there's gonna be some overlap-ish or maybe tangential responsibility with the planning commission. Is that true or no?
Well, the CDA simply put for how we're looking to use it right now is a financial tool. It's going to be what we hope to give us access to federal money for a loan at a discount rate. I think when we met with the individual that came in, was it Pat?
Yeah, Pat,
Yeah.
Up in Baraboo, he says the rates right now are 3.7.
No, I understand that part, but then what is that CDA doing?
The CDA doesn't do any, basically the CDA
It
Once-
exists for the loan.
for the loan, it's a nonprofit, and what they do is we have a lease agreement with the CDA to pay for everything, basically, and we're just running them. It's basically a entity, so we can have access to federal money and get extended loan, because right now, state statute says a municipality can only borrow for 20 years.
Yep.
So this will be a separate entity from us.
That go up to 30 or 40 or whatever.
Correct.
Yep.
So the CDA is basically, we're using it as a financial mechanism to get at federal funds.
Okay, I might not have any concerns, and I didn't know if the CDA and the planning committee would have to more or less be like working together to get the building off the ground. Okay, then
No,
I don't have any concerns.
Who are the other members of the CDA? Was that?
I haven't gone out and got them yet because I didn't know if it was gonna pass. Hopefully I'll try to get them, by our next meeting.
I guess I'll communicate my concern, even though it sounds like it might not be a thing, was just that, like, you know, we have the same 3 people doing both those things, and there was some like tangential work back and forth. You know, there could be, you know, mistake or something, and you have fewer eyes on it, like, to notice. That was my only thing I wanted to talk about tonight, if there was a
No,
concern.
the thought process was, once we get to where we get to the building, it'll clearly go through plan. So I thought the more people educated for when it goes to the CDA, we aren't rehashing everything, it's going through, they understand where everything is. That was the logic behind it.
Okay, do need a motion to approve number 11.
Yeah.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, any future agenda items?
Yes, I guess last meeting, Mike had indicated that we we're at like half the lifeguard or whatever that we were supposed to be at. I just, you know, some sort of check-in on how our park staffing is for summer 2023. You know, I heard concerns about not offering the day camp. I heard, you know, numerous concerns. I don't know, a month is a long time. Maybe some of that is better now, but if it's not, just watching limited services come this summer is probably not ideal, and we should at least talk about it.
All right, sounds good.
Ordinance 206.
What?
Done.
He wanted one last argument with you.
Oh,
But Paul,
I said you motion.
there we go.
That's true. Yeah, I would move we adjourn.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same. Don't move. We're done.
Happy trails.
You guys have any other?